on how old you are. But let's just start with, the general guardrails, which is first, save as much as you can. And what we mean for that is that 15% of your income each year. Second, make your money work for you. You want to have the right investment mix of stocks, bonds, and cash based on how far you are from retirement and how comfortable you are with risk. And that investment mix will change as you get older. And lastly, you want to reevaluate your retirement plan. Waiting longer to retire does have its benefits because you can build saving longer and you can actually increase Social Security payments. But we know this isn't easy. So what we found is that some people are actually working part-time or even making money off of hobbies, and that can help them from tapping into their retirement savings earlier. And for those who can't do this, because we understand it's not an option for everyone, it might make more sense to evaluate how much you plan to spend in retirement, where you can make some cuts.
So, Rita, we understand there's, I think Fidelity has a retirement score available. How can we check that? What is the retirement score, first off, and how does that determine where we are in terms of retirement savings?
Sure. So Fidelity has several resources to help you get started, including this Fidelity Retirement Score. And the score is basically a measure of how much you'll be able to, your income will be able to provide for your expenses in retirement. So if you check the score, you can see where you stand and make changes to supercharge your retirement. So to get started, you can go to fidelity.com/score, and there are a number of resources there to help you.
Okay, so again, so many people watching us right now, and many of them might be thinking, okay, we've had a tough few years here. I've had to dip into savings. Where do I begin to really kind of set myself up for retirement? If you were to name like 3 things of where people can begin to really get that retirement score up, let's say, where would you recommend people start?
Look at your contributions. See how much you can actually contribute. And as you get older, you actually have access to contribute more. So those who are 50 or older can take advantage of what we call catch-up contributions, where they can contribute an extra $1,000 each year to an IRA. Second, and this actually helps with your retirement preparedness, that investment mix. You really want to be sure that you have the right investment mix, especially aligned to your time horizon, how far you are from retirement. Those are 2 that will immediately help you with your retirement readiness and are near-term steps that you can take now.
Okay, Rita Asaf, Vice President, Retirement Products at Fidelity Investments. We appreciate the conversation. It's a very important conversation to have, Rita. So thanks for joining us on the Digital Desk. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's talk about the fraud alert that is currently an issue here across the country. From crypto to cash apps, AARP Fraud Watch Network is revealing the latest fraud tactics right here, right now, because they are going on attack. Scammers are constantly looking for their next victim. And we want to do a deep dive on all this with Kathy Stokes. She's the Director of Fraud Prevention Programs at AARP. I'm so glad she's back with us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Kathy, good morning. Nice to have you again. Let's talk about this latest scam and maybe the big problems with these scams in the U.S. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so glad that we're talking about this today. It's really important to spread the word.
I agree. So what is the surefire way? Because I know there's several different ways to really kind of know something is a scam. What is a surefire way that we can tell people, hey, watch out for this? It's an immediate red flag that this is a scam.
Yeah, there is an immediate red flag, and I hope what I'm saying is actually something that will work. We got to try something, right? We know that the criminals use our emotions against us. They know that this is the way our brain works, that if we're in a heightened emotional state, then we're more likely to believe anything they're telling us. So when you get that communication out of the blue that makes you panic or makes you very afraid or maybe really excited because you just won a lot of money, understand that that is the tactic among criminals and don't engage to begin with.
Exactly. And we know that a lot of people like to dabble in cryptocurrency, but for some reason, cryptocurrency is involved in a lot of scams too. Tell me more.
Well, there's a lot going on in the crypto space. None of us really know a ton about it, and the criminals will take advantage of that. One thing we're seeing is crypto ATM machines popping up everywhere. I mean, just pull your map up and put crypto ATM machine and you'll see it. And the criminals are able to convince people that to pay for whatever problem that they need to address right away, go to the bank, take out cash, go to the crypto ATM machine, put that cash in the machine, send it to a wallet via a QR code, and that money's gone. And they're also doing investment schemes, trying to get people to believe that they've made a ton of money themselves and they can teach them how, but it's all completely fraudulent, and the money invested and the money that you think you're getting in returns is not real.
You know, I've heard, Kathy, several times about gift cards and Venmo and Cash App and other different money apps that are used for fraud. Tell me some good red flags that people can watch out for when it comes to that, because it seems like Venmo is used so frequently these days.
Well, you know, and it's really out there as a convenience for, you know, sharing costs among friends or family. And when it's used in another way, if someone is convincing you that there's a big financial problem that you have to address right away and to send that money by a peer-to-peer payment app, it's a scam. Same stands if they say that the best way to get that money right away to solve the problem is to buy a gift card and share the number off the back. Good news on that, 75% of people in our survey know that that's a scam, but we still saw $250 million in reported losses to gift card fraud last year.
Wow, that's a lot. It's extraordinary, and I hate to hear it. Why don't people report more scams? Are they just embarrassed?
Yeah, and you know, it's our tendency to blame victims, and so they blame themselves. And especially if you're an older adult, and older adults are far more likely to lose a lot of money to the fraud, even though younger people experience it more often. But they may be afraid that their adult kids will think there's something wrong, that they're not able cognitively to deal with their finances anymore, and that couldn't be any further from the truth. But that fear will stop people from reporting.
What else can we talk about, Kathy, to warn people out there with regards to this? Because as you've been saying, fraud is such an issue right now. It's so prevalent, especially with the demo that AARP serves.
We need to understand that fraud is a crime, that the crime itself is highly sophisticated these days, that it's largely the space of transnational criminal enterprises. And so it's us as an individual against that. Understand it is not that victim's fault. They didn't miss something. This is just something that the criminals do that they're really good at. We have to start understanding it for the crime it is, treat victims with empathy, convince them to report to the police because it is a crime and they do want a record of that. And we just need to change this narrative. It is not the fraud victim's fault.
Is there a place where people can go online, get some more information about all this fraud and various scams out there?
Yeah, you can go to aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. While you're there, you can sign up for biweekly alerts from us that just keep you mindful that fraud is happening. It'll tell you about what the new schemes are, and then share that. The more we talk about fraud, the less likely we are to engage in the fraud attempts.
Okay, Kathy Stokes, Director of Fraud Prevention Programs at AARP. Always a great conversation. Always great to have you on the digital desk. Thanks very much.
Great to be here again. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Over the next 10 to 20 years, maybe even sooner than that, every business and government agency will use artificial intelligence in some form or fashion. How can workers and businesses prepare for the AI economy of the future? And what does it mean? There's a lot of people talking about this topic today. I've heard it for the last several weeks. And more importantly, there's a lot of concern about artificial intelligence and some of the negative things that could happen if we don't really get things under control. Let's talk with Jordan Crenshaw. He's a part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Senior Vice President of Technology and the Engagement Center. Jordan, good morning to you. We understand that AI and AI technology is becoming more and more widespread. Are you concerned about some of the fears that some people have out there? I know that you've heard them as well.
Well, good morning. Well, AI is transforming how we live and work, but nearly everyone is already using AI. So if you're using your phone to get directions, that's artificial intelligence. If you're looking at that next video you want to look at on a streaming service that's being recommended, that's artificial intelligence already making that recommendation. And AI is actually is going to be a game changer. It's going to have a $13 trillion economic impact globally. But broadly speaking, AI technologies offer great hope for increasing economic opportunity, boosting income, finding cures for diseases more quickly, and simplifying the lives of consumers. And for example, here in Memphis, FedEx is actually using a new AI suite of tools to help with supply chain issues and ease physical burdens on employees. But with any new technology, there does come risk and there comes concern. And that's why the U.S. Chamber of Commerce last year set up a bipartisan AI commission to come up with policy recommendations that we released recently on how do we regulate AI, how do we prepare the workforce, and how do we remain globally competitive. But all important questions.
Certainly important questions. I agree with you. And I can see the advantages. You know, I think anyone can see the advantages of artificial intelligence, AI, and a form of it certainly we use on our smartphones each and every day. But more recently, and I know, you know, the chamber is more focused on technology and businesses and the good that it can do. I just think that the last few weeks, I have heard so much concern that people are worried that, for example, if AI is created and gets in the wrong hands, what do we do? Can you maybe enlighten us more about maybe some ways that government leaders and various business leaders, what they're doing to regulate AI?
So our commission report makes a couple of recommendations here. First of all, government agencies actually already have the authority to regulate in the space of AI. In fact, if they're acting unfairly or deceptively, for example, the Federal Trade Commission could actually issue an enforcement proceeding against a company that's not acting in the best interest of consumers. At the same time, too, we've also seen NIST, which is the National Institute for Standards and Technology, and the federal government has developed a voluntary risk management framework that will get companies that want to do the right thing and develop trustworthy AI, gives them a roadmap to implement ethics and AI into their planning of development. So there are steps the government's already doing now, but we also recommend too in our AI Commission report, if Congress finds that agencies don't have the authority they need in their particular problems where it's appropriate for new regulation, they should definitely take a look at new regulations that are in a risk-based approach.
I appreciate that, Jordan, and thanks for enlightening me on that. Let's talk now about how the U.S. stays competitive in this realm of artificial intelligence. It seems like everybody, China and the like, everyone's getting in on artificial intelligence. How does the U.S. stay competitive and make it more of a positive and an upswing in this digital age?
Well, the nation that leads in artificial intelligence will have a strategic advantage in the 21st century. And you mentioned China. China is investing heavily to try to beat the United States in AI research and development. And they're actually outpacing us in terms of patent filings and things like robotics. And this is another area that the Chamber's AI Commission made some recommendations. For example, it really is the time for the U.S. And its allies and like-minded nations to bolster their relationship and harmonize their approach to artificial intelligence so they can remain competitive with non-democratic countries. We also need to look at ways of modernizing intellectual property to ensure that the U.S. can outpace competitors, but also not lose out to things like IP theft abroad. And finally, when we're looking at things like national security, as the Department of Defense is looking at procuring new equipment and tools, they really should build in AI ethics into the procurement process. So we have a lot of recommendations in this space, but it's crucially important that the United States remains the leader in trustworthy AI.
Where can people go for more information about this topic when it comes to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, if you want to learn more about the recommendations from the report from our commission or learn more about what we're doing on AI, I encourage you to visit uschamber.com/AI Commission.
Jordan Crenshaw, Vice President, leads day-to-day operations with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Technology Engagement Center. We appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for the deep dive.
Thank you.
My mic is. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. We are speaking today at the start of the summer storm season for much of the country here because June 1st begins hurricane season, and we know that that can be very turbulent, for lack of a better term. Let's talk about some of the issues, though, around the safety when it comes to storms, when it comes to everything else around the house. We have Patty Davis with the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. I appreciate you being here, Ms. Davis. So tell me, here we are where it's May and we're talking about the summer storm season. Why is that?
Well, as you said, June 1st is the start of Atlantic hurricane season and the summer storm season. We know that our power is going to get knocked out from some storms. I mean, that's fact of life. So we want you to be prepared. If you're going to use a portable generator, use it as safely as possible, because our latest data shows that about 100 people die every year from carbon monoxide poisoning associated with generators. 1 in 4 of those are African Americans. So we want to make sure that you are staying safe, not only during the storm, but after.
So tell us about some of this new data around storm safety. What is it saying about this country as we head into summer?
Well, what that 100 death number shows, and it's been on the increase, is that the risk is real of dying from carbon monoxide poisoning, and that's with generators. And the fact that there are a higher percentage of African Americans who die as compared to their population. So I think what this shows is people need to pay attention because this is happening, it's real, and it can happen to you.
Yeah, we know that generators need space. They need to be outside. They shouldn't be inside. What else can we do to improve storm safety?
Well, make sure that you've got carbon monoxide alarms in your home and smoke alarms as well. You know, smoke alarms, a lot of people already have those, but carbon monoxide alarms may be an afterthought, but they're critically important when you have a storm that's knocking out the power, and you may be using a portable generator or any other reason. If you have a fireplace, if you have a car that you park in your garage, all of those can cause carbon monoxide to seep into your home. So important to keep that generator outside, at least 20 feet from the home. Point the exhaust away from your home, away from your neighbor's home, and make sure that you have a working carbon monoxide alarm in your home.
Okay, carbon monoxide detector, keep the generator outside. Anything else?
If the power goes out, use those battery operated candles and flashlights instead of real candles if you're able. Now is the time to be preparing because we have a couple weeks now before that storm season kicks off. And we know there are going to be storms. It happens every year. They seem to be increasing in frequency. Get prepared now. Read the instructions on your portable generator. Take it out back and try it out. Know how to use it before the first storm hits.
U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Not looking half bad here on this Thursday. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis here on the digital desk with you. And of course, we've got a fairly decent Thursday. There might be a couple of passing showers and rumbles of thunder to contend with, but moving forward, tomorrow could be some late day showers and storms. Don't let that big thunderstorm make you scared. Most of the day will be a mixture of clouds and sunshine, but during the latter portion of the day, we could have to tangle with some showers and storms that could be a little bit more hefty as a frontal boundary moves into the area. The positive thing behind that front, drier air and brighter conditions for the weekend. It's this system coming out of the plain states heading in our direction. Most of the showers and storms that we will see for tomorrow will likely happen during the evening and overnight period. That's when we have our highest potential for a few strong and severe thunderstorms to make their way across the Mid-South. It's not going to be a washout for your day on your Friday, but there could be a few popcorn downpours to develop during the afternoon and evening hours before this main system pushes through here. Morning showers will exit, sunshine to return, drier air filters in the wake of that system. But we got to get through today as well. A couple of showers not out of the realm of possibility here today. Best chances east of the metro Memphis area and south of I-40. About a 20% chance in those locations, 10 to 20% opportunities here inside the 240 loop. Temperatures will top out in the middle 80s this afternoon. Now, speaking of that potential for rain and storms coming in here for your Friday evening, we could have to tangle with one or two strong or severe thunderstorms. Wind and hail, the primary issue. Let's go hour by hour now with your future cast. First alert to some isolated showers and rumbles of thunder inside of North Mississippi this afternoon. And I can't rule it out that we could see an isolated downpour even inside of the 240 loop. There's actually a backdoor front that's slipping southward that will help to force the issue during that time frame. That will fade away, and we get started with tomorrow morning with some banks of fog. So that may impact you along your morning travels on your Friday morning, something to be cognizant of, especially heading up I-40 and down I-22 to start off on Friday morning. Sunshine will mix in with clouds. A couple of downpours will redevelop during the afternoon hours of your Friday. Notice not everybody getting wet. Most spots are likely dry with temperatures in the middle 80s. Here comes the better chances for showers and storms. It will happen after sunset as the front moves into the area. And some of these clusters of thunderstorms can feature gusty winds, frequent lightning, maybe some small hail. Can't rule that out completely. Notice the time frame here. Most of this is happening after sunset into the overnight period as the front works its way to the east. We'll have some lingering showers on the front side of your Saturday, but already seeing the drier air moving into northeast Arkansas and heading into Shelby County by the time we head towards your Saturday afternoon. The weekend does end up being pretty nice after a morning shower chance Saturday. We'll go with high temperatures in the upper 70s, about a 30% chance for a shower or storm early in the day. Mixture of sunshine and clouds on your Sunday. Of course, we've got the barbecue fest going on the next couple of days. Most of the rain, though, seems to be after sunset, but there could be a pop-up downpour during the afternoon hours if you're heading down to Tom Lee Park on Friday afternoon. And most of the rain before everything gets going on Saturday, most of the rain is going to be out of here. We'll trend towards sunshine. A cool north wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour with 70s for high temperatures. Speaking of which, 11:30 in the morning, the showboat's back in town. The weather looking great for that kickoff. 72 degrees at 11:30 by the fourth quarter in the upper 70s. Again, a north breeze coming in here around 10 miles per hour. Upon the 7-day forecast, outside of those opportunities for an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm Friday into Saturday, we'll see quieter weather for Sunday and Monday to kick off the new work week. There is going to be a big ridge of high pressure that's going to be nudging its way down into the area by the time we head into mid next week. That may kick off a shower or two on Tuesday and Wednesday. There will also be quite warm temperatures. The temperatures will creep upward into the middle 80s as we approach the Memorial Day weekend. Could be approaching 90. You can find out the details in the 10-day forecast anytime on the free First Alert Weather app or on actionnews5.com.
time of year is when people really like to spend a lot of time outside, whether that's camping, hiking, you name it. People like to enjoy this nice weather. But of course, you always have to worry about risks, things like Lyme disease and ticks this time of year. So joining me now to talk a little bit more about this is Dr. Jeff Mullins. He is a primary care physician with Methodist Medical Group. Dr. Mullins, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day outside.
I know. Let's just take another live look and just take it in and enjoy this, because I hate that I'm inside stuck at work right now, but I'm looking forward to a really nice weekend. I'm probably planning to be out in nature. So, of course, the focus this morning is talking about ticks, Lyme disease. I guess to just start things off, let's just talk about, a lot of people hear about Lyme disease, but what exactly is it?
Lyme disease is a bacterial infection that's carried by ticks, predominantly the Burgdorferi tick, or what some people call the deer tick. It's a pretty common disease, actually. It's a lot more common than people think. It's just not as common down here in the South as it is up in the Northeast and the upper Midwest. There's a lot of discrepancy. If you go online and do a little research, a lot of discrepancy in the number of cases that you see every year. And it is a reportable disease, but unfortunately, I think the method of reporting to the CDC is not very good. The CDC says that there's about 35,000 cases a year, which is significant. But researchers have found, by looking through insurance records of where people have actually been treated for Lyme disease, the number is closer to over 400,000 cases a year, excuse me. And so there's this big discrepancy in the number of cases. Fortunately for us in the Mid-South, the vast majority, over 90% of the cases, are going to be in New England and the upper Midwest. But it does occur in the South, and it is a concern this time of the year, as ticks are a real problem for those who garden or those who live in the country, and those who camp and go fishing and hunting and these kind of things. You're going to encounter ticks this year. It's going to be a pretty bad tick year. We've already starting to see people come into the office with tick bites.
You know, it's surprising to me, because you say it's not as common down here. I would think with so many outdoor opportunities and things like that, that it maybe would be a little bit more common. But I guess the big thing, people want to know, how do I protect myself? Because we like to spend time outside when it's nice. What is the best thing that you can do to protect yourself?
Well, wearing proper clothing when you're actually going to be in contact with tall weeds, brush, being out in the woods, it's not as much of a problem if you're walking across someone's manicured lawn or hanging out by the pool, as it's going to be if, like I said, you're tramping through the woods or on a trail. Ticks like to get on weeds and bushes that are near where people or animals will actually walk by and brush them. And I've actually seen them on the edge of a weed with their arms up like this, just waiting for something to come in contact with something. So the best thing to do is to wear proper clothing, and by proper clothing, if you're going to be in a tick infested area, one of the things you may want to consider doing is wearing long pants and long sleeve shirt. Now, it gets really hot in the summer and the peak of tick season, and that's kind of a tough thing to do. And you got to be careful about overheating as well. So if you're going to be in an area where you may contact ticks and you're going to wear long sleeves, long pants to do things like gardening, you need to be out there for early in the morning doing it before it gets too hot. But if you're going to be out, you're just a regular person out tramping in the woods on a beautiful summer day, you probably want to make sure that you're using a insect repellent that contains DEET, and you want to make sure that you spray on your exposed skin areas, not only to protect you from ticks, of course, but from things like chiggers and mosquitoes. Mosquitoes can carry things like West Nile fever and encephalitis, so you don't want to be getting bit by mosquitoes either. But the same insect repellent will work on ticks as well. We would take our socks and pull them over the end of our pants legs so nothing could crawl up into them. honestly, it looks kind of goofy, but it does work to prevent you from getting ticks on you. But using DEET around the cuffs of your pants and around your waist and around on your arms, it will be pretty protective for repelling ticks. And that's what I recommend is a good insect repellent.
Some good advice. I know that I've been that one myself, that when I've gone out hiking, I wear, kind of some lightweight hiking pants, and then I do pull the socks over because it works. I think it's a good tip,
It does work.
Yeah. And so I'm going to use the trick with a DEET too as well, because obviously mosquitoes are bad enough here. And if that's an extra layer to protect me from ticks, then I'm saying count me in. I will ask though, are there usually common places where people will find ticks? Because when you go out and you're hiking or you're camping and whatnot, are there certain places on your body that you need to make sure that you're checking when you come back inside? What advice would you have for that?
Yeah, first of all, if you've been outside and you've been in the woods or you've been doing some gardening where you're concerned that you might have come in contact with ticks, the first thing you want to do when you come inside is you want to go into the bathroom, take off your clothes, okay? And one of the things I advise is don't take off your clothes and throw them into the dirty clothes hamper, okay? Take off your clothes and shake them over your bathtub, because there can be ticks in your clothing. And if they're not on you, but they're in your clothing, guess what they're going to do when you put them in the hamper? They're going to crawl out and wait to get on you at some other time. And so shake your clothing out over the bathtub. You'll see anything that falls out, and you actually just wash it down the drain if that occurs. And then get in the mirror and do an inspection of your body. Someone who's hair challenged like me doesn't have this issue, but there are many, many, many people who have very thick hair. And if it gets into your scalp and starts to attach there, you may not even know it until it's been on you for quite some time. Early detection of a tick attaching to you is important. Some experts believe that a tick has to be on you for about 24 hours before you can actually be infected with a tick-borne disease like Lyme disease. So getting the tick off of you in a prompt manner is very important. While we're talking about that, what do you do if you find a tick? Okay, well, there's lots of old country kind of things that people do. Paint the tick with nail polish so it suffocates and backs out. Touching it, lighting a match, blowing it out, and touching to the back of the tick. I don't recommend any of these things, because if you disturb the tick to that degree, it can actually regurgitate into your body, and what might have not been a disease-causing exposure may then become one. What you want to do is you want to take a pair of tweezers, and you want to get as close to the head as you can, clamp down on the head, and as gently as possible, but pull back very slowly. Don't jerk it out. Pull back very slowly. The tick will release, and then you need to dispose of the tick. There's a few ways you can do that. They're very difficult to crush. They have a very, very hard shell. You can do it, but it's very, very hard to do. We live out in the country, and we have a septic system. So what I do is I flush it down the toilet, because once it goes down the toilet, it's not coming out anywhere and getting anybody else. The other thing you probably want to be considerate of this time of year are your pets, okay? They have lots of products now that repel ticks and fleas and these kind of things off your animals. But it's not a bad idea if your dog's been out rolling around the yard and that kind of stuff, when they come in, just to give them a quick brush down. And because if the tick gets on the animal and it tries to implant, and this medication it's on causes the tick to be repelled, it'll drop off the dog in your home, and then you have a problem. So kind of giving Rover a quick once over with a brush to knock off any ticks that may have attached, may have climbed onto your dog is not a bad idea either. Another thing you can do, I think in family medicine, we're real big in prevention. And one of the things you can do to prevent this from becoming a problem is treat your yard. And there are several good products. Some of them are granular, some of them are sprays. You want to be careful if you have small children. You want to read labels about how long after you apply something to your yard before you can let your pets come in contact with it. But they have some very good products that are very good at killing things like ticks, so that your yard won't be a problem. And I highly recommend doing that this time of year as well.
Good advice. And I know you were talking about, I think a lot of people's first instinct when they have a tick on them is try to get it off of them as quickly as possible. So that was some good advice with the tweezers and making sure that it's a slow process. I'm wondering though, I've heard about people doing this too, if they do find a tick on them and they remove it, to maybe put it in a Ziploc bag in case, just, I mean, if there's a way to identify if maybe it would be one of those ticks that would have Lyme disease. Is that something that people should think about doing if they're concerned about it? Yes or no?
Not really. I mean, the vast majority of tick bites do not result in any disease, and that we probably should talk about that as well. When do you get concerned if you have had a tick on you? What do you need to do after you remove it? First thing, let's talk about something that's very common, and it's a skin reaction to the proteins that are in the saliva of the tick. These are not proteins that belong in your body. Your body sometimes is very adept at recognizing this and can react to it quite vigorously. It's not uncommon that some hours after you've removed a tick, you'll look down there and there'll be a red spot and you go, oh my gosh, it's giving me something. Not really. That's probably more of an allergic reaction, a tissue reaction to what we call arthropod proteins that are in the saliva of the tick. So what you want to do is just watch that area. And so it's not a bad idea after you remove the tick to put a little dab of antibiotic ointment on there, but that won't prevent that kind of reaction because the reaction is not an infection. The reaction is almost like an allergic reaction. With Lyme disease, the classic presentation is that red spot will develop kind of a target lesion, looks like a bullseye. That should be a big concern if you develop a bullseye type of lesion where you've removed a tick. But the more also classic presentation is what we call erythema migrans, which in Latin just means migrating redness. And so from the red spot that's there initially, you see this red area just spreading out from it. It typically doesn't hurt and it typically doesn't itch. That should be a concern. All tick-borne illnesses have some common features, rash being one of them. There's different rashes, for example, for Rocky Mountain spotted fever than there for Lyme disease, but a lot of the tick-borne illnesses will have a rash, fever, headache, and joint pains. And as clinician, we look for at least 3 out of 4 of those as a measure of concern. So if you have someone that got a tick bite, they may not even have a rash. They may have removed a tick, and then maybe a week later, they're feeling bad. They're feeling run down. They're having a headache. They're having some joint pains, and they're having low-grade fever. Well, guess what? We still got COVID around, and those can be signs of COVID as well. So always keep in mind, hey, it could be COVID. Do a home test to make sure. But contact your physician or your nurse practitioner and say, look, I got bit by a tick. I didn't really have much of a reaction to it initially, but now I'm not feeling good. I'm running a little bit of a fever, and I'm kind of achy, and I have kind of a headache. Those are all warning signs to a clinician that you may have encountered a tick-borne illness. Testing for Lyme is a little sketchy. About 50% of cases will not be detected early. They'll be detected late. So this clinical suspicion based on symptoms is very important. So if you have these kind of symptoms, and again, just to reiterate, rash, fever, headache, joint pains, 3 out of the 4 is enough to really have a strong clinical suspicion. But as usual, if in doubt, contact your healthcare provider and talk to them about what's happened and maybe come in and be checked out.
Some good advice for sure. And obviously the big thing that we're trying to do today is know how to prevent this. How do you keep from getting Lyme disease? But if someone does in fact get Lyme disease, what kind of impact does that have? What does it do to the body?
Well, there's 2 considerations. One, if you develop symptoms, classic symptoms, and you're treated, you really shouldn't have any long-term, what we call sequela, things that happen to you long-term from Lyme. But the problem is where Lyme goes untreated. You can imagine if you got bit by a tick and you didn't break out in a rash, you kind of got a little headachy, a little tired, maybe some joint pains, a little low-grade fever. You might think you're coming down with something. And then if those symptoms kind of clear and you never got treatment, you're going to forget about it. And then weeks or months later, Lyme can really cause problems with significant joint inflammation, cardiovascular issues can occur. So you don't want to get to a point where that happens. Again, prevention, not getting bit by a tick at all is obviously the best thing to do. But if you do get bit by a tick, watch out for those symptoms. And if in doubt, see your healthcare provider. Now, some patients freak out when they get bit by a tick. They're so frightened that because they've heard horrible things about Lyme disease, and untreated Lyme disease can be a horrible disease, but it's actually quite uncommon. Okay, so the chances are you won't get Lyme disease if you get a tick. But if you develop any of those symptoms, just seek attention promptly and you should be fine. But long-term problems from having untreated Lyme disease can be quite significant. One of the things that's discouraging to me as a clinician is there are some providers in the country that have kind of made a cottage industry as labeling people as having chronic Lyme disease based on the fact that they have antibodies to the Lyme organism. Well, having antibodies doesn't necessarily confirm infection. And there is absolutely no clinical data that these people need to be on long-term antibiotics for the rest of their lives. Chances are, even if you're detected somewhat late and you've developed some of these more significant symptoms, you can still be treated with infection. The weird thing about Lyme disease is in people who aren't treated promptly, even if they're treated successfully later and there's no indication that the organism is still in their body, it seems to kind of set up this resonance in the body where they continue to have symptoms sometimes for years, and they can become disabled with it. So again, prevention, not getting Lyme disease in the first place, is step number one. But we're going to get ticks. Okay, I get them, and I'm fully aware of how to avoid them, and I'll still get one now and then. The best thing to do is to be aware of what to watch out for and to seek medical attention promptly if you develop any of these symptoms of a tick-borne illness.
And that's why this conversation is so important this morning. But while we have you here, Dr. Mullins, any other kind of summer safety tips you want to make sure that we hit on?
Well, yes, like I said, protecting yourself from mosquitoes, from things like West Nile virus and encephalitis is important. Obviously, most people get bit by a mosquito, don't get sick, but this is an avoidable thing with the kind of insect repellents that we have. So I do that. The biggest problem in the Mid-South this time of year, as we get into the really hot days, it's heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So you want to be really careful, particularly if you already have health problems or you're older. You want to be careful about getting overheated, but young people can get dangerously overheated as well, outside playing hard in the sun and these kind of things. Take breaks, get in the shade, hydrate very well. It's generally not necessary for most of us to drink electrolyte replacement type of beverages. If we just keep well hydrated, most of us get more than enough salt and potassium in our diet. We don't really have to worry about drinking the electrolyte replacement solutions. But protecting against dehydration, heat exhaustion, and God forbid heat stroke, which kills people in the Mid-South every year, we really need to be cautious with that. Also, while we're along those lines, there are people in our community who don't have air conditioning. There are elderly people in our community who don't have air conditioning. If you know some of these people, if they're your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, as we get into the hot part of the year, please check on them and make sure that they're okay. And offer them a place to stay if you can when it gets really hot if they don't have air conditioning. And of course, the city and the county will open up shelters during some of these times as well. But when you compare the yearly toll from things like ticks in Shelby County, mosquitoes in Shelby County, and heat in Shelby County, heat beats them all.
Yeah, definitely important to make sure you're staying hydrated, because a lot of times that kind of thing can sneak up on you and you don't realize how dehydrated you are. Yeah. So, Dr. Mullins, I appreciate you taking some time this morning to share this information with our viewers. It was really good to talk to you, and you have a great morning, all right?
Thank you. You too.
Every 24 minutes, a baby is born in the U.S. and experiencing opioid withdrawal. Can you believe that? Every 24 minutes, newborns exposed to opioids during pregnancy are at risk for a condition. It's called neonatal opioid withdrawal syndrome, with the acronym NOWS. NOWS. A crazy situation here that we're just beginning to learn more about. I want to talk with Dr. Leslie Young. She's a practicing neonatologist at the University of Vermont Children's Hospital to talk more about this. Dr. Young, good morning to you. Tell me about the research and what does it show about the care when it comes to these opioid-exposed newborns? Good morning.
Good morning. So our research has shown that by using the ESC or Eat, Sleep, Console care approach, we are able to reduce the amount of medications that babies receive following delivery by about 60%. And we are able to shorten their length of stay and the duration of time until they're ready to go home by about a week. So it's really exciting research.
Oh, okay, so Eat, Sleep, and Console, ESC. So tell me, first off, that stat just blew my mind. Every 24 minutes, a baby's born in the U.S. that has some sort of opioid withdrawal. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how bad the opioid epidemic is in this country, that stat should. I didn't even know it was that big. And so can you explain, the problem when a baby is born addicted to opioids and what are some of the problems that nurses see? And now that there's this new approach that there's an opportunity there. Just take us through, because I know our viewers might, this is the first time they're probably hearing of this.
Yeah, so it's mirroring the opioid epidemic, which you've highlighted as a significant problem. Babies aren't actually born addicted to opioids. Addiction requires a psychological piece of kind of seeking behavior despite consequence. So what we actually see is that babies are born with some degree of dependence and then experience withdrawal following delivery. These babies can have increased muscle tone or muscle tightness. They can be quite jittery when disturbed, or even just when laying there, they can have jittery movements. They can have digestive issues with diarrhea. They can have difficulties feeding. They can be challenging to console and to keep from crying. And so babies can have some degree of withdrawal if they've been exposed to opioids in the womb. And this exposure can be of prescribed medications or illicit. So our job as clinicians is to care for these infants in a way that keeps them safe. And the ESC care approach is the effective way that we've found to do that by really optimizing non-pharmacologic or non-medication-based care, so supportive care, having the baby in a low stimulation environment, dark setting, low light, swaddled, or even better yet, skin to skin with mom or another family member, as a really effective way to care for these babies.
Tell me how bad this problem is in Tennessee. We're in Memphis. We broadcast to Mississippi, Arkansas, and West Tennessee. Do you have any numbers closer to home?
Yeah, I don't have numbers off the top of my head for your area, but I'll say those are areas that are impacted quite a bit by the opioid epidemic. And as I said, the exposure to babies while in the womb has mirrored the epidemic. And so we've seen increasing numbers since 2010 and hope to see those numbers stabilize here soon. But as of yet, we've not seen that to be the case.
You mentioned Eat, Sleep, Console is the newest care approach to these babies that are experiencing opioid withdrawal. How does that differ from the traditional method?
Yeah, so the traditional method had at its foundation a scoring tool called the Finnegan Neonatal Abstinence Scoring Tool, which was developed in the 70s and used ever since because we didn't have another alternative. It tends to be quite subjective. It's looking at all the possible signs and symptoms of withdrawal, and the baby gets a score. So things like sneezing and this jitteriness I talked about contribute to a baby score, and then that score is used to dictate whether or not the baby gets medication. It tends to be subjective. We've found that it overestimates the need for medication. So more babies were receiving medication than probably needed to be. And so this alternative really looks at the functional components of what does it take to be a baby? What do they need to be able to do? And if they can eat, sleep, and be consoled in a reasonable way, then they're doing okay, and their withdrawal is well supported.
Fantastic. And how does this research really address the opioid crisis? I mean, not only across here in the Mid-South, but nationally.
That's a great question. It's one part of a very large puzzle, as you've alluded to, but one that I think I'm very excited to say we're making inroads on. The HEAL initiative, the Helping to End Addiction Long-Term initiative, is a very, very large initiative funded by the NIH that's looking to improve supports and within communities and care across all individuals who are impacted by the opioid crisis. It's bringing a lot of hope to communities, and it's really exciting and portends a bright future for those impacted by opioid use disorder.
You know, this is interesting, Dr. Young. Is there any place people can go for more information about this? Because the opioid crisis in our area is fairly significant.
Yeah, so the HEAL initiative has a webpage, and specifically for this study that can be accessed at www.heal.nih.gov/ESC, and that stands for Eat, Sleep, Console.
Okay, Dr. Leslie Young at the University of Vermont Children's Hospital, we appreciate you talking with us and informing us about this very important issue. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. The Methodist Le Bonheur Transplant Institute is hosting a community educational event this coming Sunday, May 21st. It's called The Big Ask, The Big Give. Let's talk more about this event with Gayatri Jaishankar. She is Senior Director and Transplant Administrator at the Methodist Transplant Institute. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well, Gayatri. So tell me about the Big Ask, Big Give.
So we are very, very excited to partner with the National Kidney Foundation on the Big Ask, Big Give. It's a program that is designed for patients who have kidney disease and are looking for an organ transplant. And it helps the patient have those crucial conversations on how one can go about finding a living donor for themselves. The program is also beneficial to anyone who is looking to be a living donor, either for a loved one, someone that they know, or just altruistically to help someone on the kidney transplant waiting list.
Tell me about this event. Has it happened before? Who shows up? What are you expecting to come out of this event, Gayatri?
It is for the first time that the event is happening at Methodist University Hospital at the Transplant Institute in Memphis, but the event has happened at other transplant programs around the country. So it's a program that happens across the nation, and we are bringing the same program to our community, to our program. The event is, like I said, it helps patients understand how to have those conversations on finding a living donor for themselves. We have noticed that has been the greatest struggle for patients, and it teaches you tools, tricks, and tactics on how you can not only have those conversations with your near and dear, but also with the extended community.
So who are you expecting to show up at this event? I mean, who can participate? Is it only for people looking for transplants, kidney transplant lists, that sort of thing?
So the event is most beneficial for people who are needing a kidney transplant. So either you are on a transplant list or you are considering kidney transplant as a treatment option, but the event is open to the community. Like I had mentioned, there are many avenues to becoming a living donor. You can either become a living donor for someone that you know personally, for a loved one, or you could be an altruistic living donor where you just want to donate a kidney to anyone in your community because it is life-saving, and they don't say the gift of life simply. It truly is a gift of life. So the event is educational, and we welcome anybody who wants to participate, but the event is most beneficial if you're looking at kidney transplant as a treatment option.
So I'm curious, if I have a family member that is having some kidney problems and then it turns out that they need a kidney transplant, what's the process to go about finding if I perhaps am a match?
That's a great question. Every transplant program, especially at our center, we put in the same, if not more, effort into evaluating whether a person is going to qualify to being a living donor. We have an obligation not only to our patients, but to our donors, because it is the most selfless of acts. We have a criteria, a medical criteria that we evaluate a potential donor on to find out if you are going to be a match for who you intend to donate. But there is also a program that we do, which is a kidney swap program. So if you are interested in being a donor for someone, but you may not qualify on being a direct donor for the person that you intend to be, then you can donate to someone else, and your loved one can benefit from another donor's kidney who may also be incompatible. So there are many options to being a donor. They are all evaluated extremely carefully. They are evaluated on each individual patient basis. And we make sure that it is very, very safe for the donor to proceed with donation, and they can lead healthy, happy lives post-donation.
That sounds fantastic. I know you guys do amazing work there at Methodist. Where can people learn more about this event? Is it free?
Yes, the event is free. The event is at Methodist University Hospital, as you mentioned, on the 21st of May at 1 p.m. The entire community can learn more on this event from our Facebook page. It's Methodist Labona Healthcare. We have all of the details of the event, how to register. Even if you haven't registered, we will be able to register you in real time. We are just looking for participation because it is going to be so informational for the community.
Okay, Gayatri Jaishankar, we appreciate you joining us. The Methodist Transplant Institute, you guys do amazing work each and every day. Thank you for all that you do, and appreciate the info on the digital desk. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Not looking half bad here on this Thursday. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis here on the digital desk with you. And of course, we've got a fairly decent Thursday. There might be a couple of passing showers and rumbles of thunder to contend with, but moving forward, tomorrow could be some late day showers and storms. Don't let that big thunderstorm make you scared. Most of the day will be a mixture of clouds and sunshine, but during the latter portion of the day, we could have to tangle with some showers and storms that could be a little bit more hefty as a frontal boundary moves into the area. The positive thing behind that front, drier air and brighter conditions for the weekend. It's this system coming out of the plain states heading in our direction. Most of the showers and storms that we will see for tomorrow will likely happen during the evening and overnight period. That's when we have our highest potential for a few strong and severe thunderstorms to make their way across the Mid-South. It's not going to be a washout for your day on your Friday, but there could be a few popcorn downpours to develop during the afternoon and evening hours before this main system pushes through here. Morning showers will exit, sunshine to return, drier air filters in the wake of that system. But we got to get through today as well. A couple of showers not out of the realm of possibility here today. Best chances east of the metro Memphis area and south of I-40. About a 20% chance in those locations, 10 to 20% opportunities here in inside the 240 loop. Temperatures will top out in the middle 80s this afternoon. Now, speaking of that potential for rain and storms coming in here for your Friday evening, we could have to tangle with one or two strong or severe thunderstorms. Wind and hail, the primary issue. Let's go hour by hour now with your future cast. First alert to some isolated showers and rumbles of thunder inside of North Mississippi this afternoon. And I can't rule it out that we could see an isolated downpour even inside of the 240 loop. There's actually a backdoor front that's slipping southward that will help to force the issue during that time frame. That will fade away, and we get started with tomorrow morning with some banks of fog. So that may impact you a along your morning travels on your Friday morning, something to be cognizant of, especially heading up I-40 and down I-22 to start off on Friday morning. Sunshine will mix in with clouds. A couple of downpours will redevelop during the afternoon hours of your Friday. Notice not everybody getting wet. Most spots are likely dry with temperatures in the middle 80s. Here comes the better chances for showers and storms. It will happen after sunset as the front moves into the area. And some of these clusters of thunderstorms can feature gusty winds, frequent lightning, maybe some small hail. Can't rule that out completely. Notice the time frame here. Most of this is happening after sunset into the overnight period as the front works its way to the east. We'll have some lingering showers on the front side of your Saturday, but already seeing the drier air moving into northeast Arkansas and heading into Shelby County by the time we head towards your Saturday afternoon. The weekend does end up being pretty nice after a morning shower chance Saturday. We'll go with high temperatures in the upper 70s, about a 30% chance for a shower or storm early in the day. Mixture of sunshine and clouds on your Sunday. Of course, we've got the barbecue fest going on the next couple of days. Most of the rain, though, seems to be after sunset, but there could be a pop-up downpour during the afternoon hours if you're heading down to Tom Lee Park on Friday afternoon. And most of the rain before everything gets going on Saturday, most of the rain is going to be out of here. We'll trend towards sunshine. A cool north wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour with 70s for high temperatures. Speaking of which, 11:30 in the morning, the showboat's back in town. The weather looking great for that kickoff. 72 degrees at 11:30 by the fourth quarter in the upper 70s. Again, a north breeze coming in here around 10 miles per hour. Upon the 7-day forecast, outside of those opportunities for an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm Friday into Saturday, we'll see quieter weather for Sunday and Monday to kick off the new work week. There is going to be a big ridge of high pressure that's going to be nudging its way down into the area by the time we head into mid next week. That may kick off a shower or two on Tuesday and Wednesday. There will also be quite warm temperatures. The temperatures will creep upward into the middle 80s as we approach the Memorial Day weekend. Could be approaching 90. You can find out the details in the 10-day forecast anytime on the free First Alert Weather app or on actionnews5.com.
Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed a historic bill to raise teacher pay and protect taxpayer dollars. It provides the largest teacher pay raise in state history, ensuring union dues are not collected by school districts. The governor released a video about this historic bill just moments ago. Take a listen.
In Tennessee, this week I signed the Teacher Paycheck Protection Act to give our teachers the largest pay raise in Tennessee history. When I first came into office in 2019, the minimum salary for teachers was at $35,000. And now, by the time I leave office, that minimum salary will be set at $50,000, making Tennessee a top 10 state for teacher pay. But that's just one part of our legislation. We're also making sure that teachers actually receive their well-deserved raises and that union membership dues are never automatically deducted from teacher paychecks. Teachers should have control over their hard-earned paycheck, and taxpayer dollars should be used to educate students and not fund politics. Every Tennessean remembers that one teacher who made a positive impact in their life, someone who served as not just an educator, but maybe as a coach or a mentor. I know I do. Teaching is more than just a career, it's a calling. And to all of Tennessee's remarkable teachers, thank you. We are grateful for your hard work and your dedication to serve Tennessee students and families.
Okay, that was Tennessee Governor Bill Lee talking about the latest signature of a bill here giving teachers the largest pay raise in the state history. All right, let's switch now to barbecue, because today is the first full day of the Memphis in May World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest. Dozens of teams, international, local, regional, national, will compete for more than $100,000 in prizes. Kim Clark, to celebrate, has picked one of the oldest barbecue shops in the area here. 5-star story about Payne's Barbecue. Take a look.
It's not unusual to see constant traffic in and out of this nondescript cinder block building on Lamar Avenue.
I would say we go through maybe 7 whole shoulders a day.
And sometimes, according to Payne's barbecue co-owner Ronald Payne, even that's not enough to feed all the hungry customers who show up for their world-famous and award-winning queue.
The pork and ribs, we're selling out and having to close up doors early because we can only cook so much every day. So
Topped with Payne's tangy mustard-based coleslaw, a family recipe, this sandwich is notorious.
definitely our chopped pork sandwich is the biggest seller. That's what we're, famous for. We put a lot of love into what we do, and we make everything fresh.
Ronald says the secret to Payne's brand of deliciousness is all in their pit.
It's the preparation, the cooking, the time. It could be time consuming, but if you want the perfect flavor, it's gonna take some time to smoke it. So we say slow and low. We do charcoal, straight charcoal, and our pit is so old that I think it holds a lot of smoke and flavors.
Payne's restaurant was the dream of Horton Payne, Ronald's father.
And he started in 1972, 2 years after him and my mom married, and also the same year they had the first child, my sister. And it was my father, mother, and grandmother.
But when Horton died, 8 years after moving into the restaurant's current location, the dream lived on.
And he left us in '84, and my mom carried the torch, and along with my grandmother.
Ronald's mother, Flora, is still an important part of the restaurant business.
She's one of the only women in barbecue. She taught and still is teaching me everything I know about cooking barbecue, and she didn't have to do it, but she did it. She's just amazing woman.
And since Payne's is, first and foremost, a family business, Ronald's sister Candace has an important role as well.
Working with your family and having a legacy and something that you know is there for you and was made for you. I think my parents had my sister and I in mind when they started a business.
And what Ron and his family have in mind for their customers is satisfaction.
We hope that they're going to go and tell a friend, and a friend will tell a friend, and that's how it's been. And we've always survived off of word of mouth. I always think about my dad's vision. When he first opened, somebody told him he wouldn't survive a year, and we're here 51 years later.
Payne's Barbecue, making us proud. They've called the Mid-South home for more than 50 years. Kim Clark, Action News 5.
Well, Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk, and I've been looking forward to doing this interview. One of my favorite people to talk to, commercial appeal food reporter Jennifer Chandler, joining us back here on the digital desk after some international travels. Jennifer, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah, I've been excited. Obviously, I follow you on Instagram, so I've seen a lot about your travels, but kind of share with people what you've been up to.
So I just got back Sunday, so I still have a little jet lag, but I'm moving forward. My daughter, my youngest daughter, goes to University of Tennessee, and she had the opportunity to study abroad this past semester in London. And mom over here couldn't let her go over there without me checking on her at least once. So I went to the end of her program, and we spent, 4 or 5 days in London, and I let her show me London through her eyes after having lived there for 4 or 5 months, and just had an amazing time. We were there right before the coronation. So we were able to see there are all these flags up everywhere, and on the last day, we're there on Sunday, which was not quite, just a little under a week away from the coronation. We actually walked what would have been the parade route, and we walked from Westminster and Big Ben and saw all of those touristy things. And then we walked up to Buckingham Palace, and I kept looking around, and I saw the tents, the media tents set up, and I just couldn't find one for the commercial appeal or Channel 5 News. I was very disappointed that they didn't have a spot for us there.
What were they thinking? Don't they?
I mean, I don't know. But I will tell you, people always talk about London, and they talk about how the food is not good. And I have to tell you, I ate so well when we were in London. I mean, I was blown away about the food. I mean, obviously, I started with, one of the first nights I was there, I had traditional fish and chips, but it was so much better than I remembered. I went to, there's now fish and chips restaurants, and when I with this dish, I was drinking a gin and tonic, and I mean, it was so much fun. We also went to Borough Market, which, if you've never been, it is a must stop for anyone going to London. It is a kind of like a farmer's market restaurant court outside that's been there for, gosh, I should have looked up this beforehand, but I mean, I think it's over 100 years old, and if not longer, and just amazing food. And it was strawberry season. And so we were able to get these strawberries that they were just the juiciest, most fabulous strawberries you've ever had in your life. And to take it over the top, they serve them with milk chocolate all over them. And that was such a fun thing. And there's a great grilled cheese sandwich over there. It's called a Toasty. And I'm going to completely butcher the name of this spot, but it's like Capon something. Just Google the famous Toasty at Borough Market, and was the best grilled cheese sandwich I had ever had in my entire life. It was so good.
Yeah, I mean, and the strawberries, you were talking about it being strawberry season. I know, so I went and visited my brother in Asia, and just some of the fruit and fresh vegetables there was just out of this world. So I can only imagine, you were talking about the juiciness of the strawberries, it being strawberry season and all of that. So I bet it was delicious. And with that chocolate on top of it, taking it over.
So good. So good. And we also did, I mean, I had to, Sarah was over there on a college budget. So they did a ton of fun things, and they had a great time, but they didn't do some of the traditional, they're almost kind of touristy things that you do. So when Mom came over, I definitely booked us a high tea. One of my favorites, and I had done this before a number of years ago, was at Brown's Hotel, which again is an historic hotel. And they pull out all the stops and the scones and the clotted cream and then the desserts. It was just... It was magic, and it was perfect. And this is an interesting tidbit that I didn't know. So my daughter has a nut allergy. So I let them know ahead of time. So they made some special things for her that had no nuts. And I randomly asked, I said, well, with allergies, you guys were so good with this. What if you're gluten-free? Can you do high tea? Because it was literally, we were mini sandwiches, and we were scones, and we were desserts. And at the Brown Hotel, they said that they can, if you give them advance notice, they can make, I think, everything but the scones gluten-free for you. So if you're traveling and you have some type of food allergies or such, let them know ahead of time, and you can take care of it.
That's impressive. That's really cool that they can accommodate for something like that. And of course, if you're in London, you have to do the tea, the high tea. So it was a must do. And I love that, you got to experience London kind of from your daughter's perspective too. She'd been kind of exploring the area, and so you were able to get to see some of the extra nooks and crannies and that sort of thing. Have you ever been to London before, or was this kind of your first time?
No, I had been to London before, and this was so much fun because when I was in college, I did a semester abroad in England. I was actually in Oxford, but we would go to London a lot. So I've been to London and, a number of times, but it was interesting to see how her experience was different than mine was 30 years ago, plus. But it was kind of fun to do. But one of the things that I think I sent you a picture, I don't know if it came through, but was the Lamb and the Flag, which was, this was a cool pub. You had to do, we lucked out with gorgeous weather most of the time we were there. And on the Saturday afternoon, it was just beautiful. And in Covent Garden, there is this pub there that Charles Dickens used to hang out at. So we went and had a pint there and had that kind of experience. So it was just a really great London trip. And then we couldn't stop there. Sarah never really did Eastern Europe. So we went to Austria and Germany for the second week and just had a ball in Vienna. We saw lots of museums. We learned all about Empress Sisi and the history there. We went to an opera at the famous Venice Opera House, which you can get cheap seats the day of that are I think they were 15 euros. That's a little, maybe $17, $18. It's standing room, but you're literally front and center. It was the most amazing seats ever. So if you're going, remember that instead of spending $200 or $300 on a ticket, you can get a really cheap one the day of. but we ate Wiener Schnitzel. We ate and I don't know how to pronounce it, but they have a boiled beef dish that's famous in Austria. We went to Hotel Soccer and had the famous soccer tort. We were like normally splitting desserts, but we each got our own that day. And I learned out that our Hotel Bristol across the street actually served the original soccer tort there at their bar. So I had it 2 days in a row. The Austrians have a tradition that I really want to keep going, which is every afternoon you have a coffee and a dessert. So we did the soccer tort one day for that. We did apple strudel one day for that. It was really, really good. And after we left Venice, we went to Salzburg, which is the most idyllic little town I've ever been to. We did the Sound of Music tour. We got to see all the sights from the movie. We went to Mozart's birthplace. It was just really, really great. And it was we had a ball. And one of the things I had to laugh is that we also went to, when we were in Munich, we went to the Hofbrauhaus, which the last time I had been there, I was 20 and studying abroad, just like Sarah was. So maybe she'll take her daughter or son there, a few years from now when they turn 20 and get a chance to be over there. But one of the things that we did try that I would not have tried it, but Conrad Spitzhart is the executive pastry chef at the Peabody Hotel, and he's Austrian. And I asked him for suggestions on what to eat and, any place to go. And one of the things he said is try the pork knuckle. And I was like, what? And I was like, I don't know about this. But we took his advice. We went to the restaurant that he recommended, which was called, again, my German is terrible, like Melker Stiftkeller. It was in Vienna. And it was actually a very cool restaurant that it was in a wine cellar, that it was basically 1,000-year-old wine cellar. This dish was great. It's like they slow roast the pork knuckle, and you can see how big this piece of meat is. Those are the sausages that we had in Vienna too, the Wurstelstands, which there again, I was like, I don't know if I normally want to get a hot dog on a street stand. There was a big long line of this Wurstelstand that was in front of the Albertina Museum, and I looked it up and it said it was one of the best. We stood in line, and those were the best sausages I've ever eaten in my entire life. I mean, the big one that you see is, I don't remember the name, but it's a kind of a little bit of a spicy one that they actually take the bread and they hollow out the baguette and they put it in there. But the one that you see laying out that has like the leaves on it, that is called Bosna, and it is a white sausage, and they put like cilantro and a little bit of mustard, and then they put curry powder on it. And it was so good. Standing on the street eating this. But going back to the pork knuckle, try the pork knuckle. It is, if you go over there, it is great. And I think this is going to be the perfect segue into what we were really going to talk about on this, which is the Memphis and May World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest. One of the things that I sent a text to Conrad thanking him for the suggestion, and he goes, yep, us Austrians really know how to do pork. So that's one of the things that Austria has in common with Memphis, Tennessee. Their love of all things pork.
That's great. And of course, I know you had an article that dropped this morning, 9 things that you shouldn't miss at the Memphis and May World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest. You want to go through some of those?
Yes. I will. It's one of those things that, whether you're a tourist or a Memphian, it is so much fun to go down there and see the river. I'm so glad it's back on the river. And I can't wait to see the new park and how the layout is going to be. I was not in town last weekend for Music Fest, so I did not get to see that, but I've heard good things and I hear it's beautiful. So I'm so excited to go next week. But some of the things that I always like to tell people when you're planning when you're going to go is you might want to plan around some of these activities so that you can do more than just walking around and peeking at booths. So you can kind of see some of the fun. So the first thing is on Wednesday night is sauce wrestling. And if you've never seen the sauce wrestling, it's something that everyone should see at least once in their life because it is one of a kind. I mean, you have to be a member of a team to participate in this. And you basically do wrestling in a pit all covered in barbecue sauce. It is not something I would want to do, but It sure is fun to watch. And my advice is don't get too close if you have your favorite white shirt on, because that barbecue sauce, when they start wrestling around, goes flying everywhere. It's pretty crazy. One of our photographers one year went and did not know that. And then the next year when she went in like one of those like garbage bags that she covered herself so that her camera and everything stayed safe, because there was so much barbecue sauce over her the first time that she went. But that's a very fun thing to do, and that kind of kicks off everything on Wednesday night. Yeah. The last time I checked, the time wasn't officially announced, but it's usually around 6 o'clock. So that's a good time to go at 5, get your bearings, and then to watch that, and then kind of delve into the fun of the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest.
I was looking at the picture of the commercial appeal. I was looking at the picture of the commercial appeal, and it looks like the people that participate take it very seriously. Like it's no joke.
Oh, yeah, it's no joke. It's no joke. I actually think that some of these teams may hire some professional wrestlers to get involved in here. It's real wrestling. Yeah, it's something I would never jump in that pit with them ever. So one of the things that I think that people always ask too about when they go down to this event is, you can't eat the barbecue unless you know somebody in a team. You can't eat anything that's being served by the teams. So people are like, well, why do I want to go? And if I can't taste real barbecue? And so Memphis MMA over the years has kind of figured out ways that you can have experiences that you can taste the barbecue. And one of them is their barbecue alley experience. And this is relatively new. I feel like it's definitely been within the past 5 years. And so what they do is they've invited restaurants and some teams, and they come and they basically set up almost like a food court within the park, and you can go through and you can taste World Championship barbecue, and it's a ticketed thing. It's it's on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm trying to see if I have the times written down on my piece of paper. I don't. It's $25 a ticket, and you can buy some online in advance, but you can also buy it there. And it's basically all you can eat barbecue. So that's one way that you can try barbecue. Another way, and this is something you do have to plan in advance, is the Kingsford Tour of Champions. And if you've not done this is one of my favorite activities to do at this event, at the barbecue cooking contest, but basically you sign up in advance. Tickets are $30 each. It's just on Thursdays and Fridays. And I think there are 3 different times a day. And what you do, it's an hour-and-a-half tour, and you go and you visit 3 different teams, and they pull out all the stops. They basically do what is similar to the presentation that they do at finals for the judges. So you kind of get to have that experience where they talk about, what makes either their shoulder or their ribs or their whole hog, what makes it special. They kind of show you about how they cook it. You see it on the pits. You get to meet these famous pit masters, because a lot of the people that participate in this are some of the top pit masters around the country. And the most important thing is you get to taste their World Championship barbecue specialties. So it's always a fun thing to do. And you do get to vote on your favorites. And that's actually an award at the end of the, I think they present it on Saturday, or they might present it on Friday night, is who is the fan favorite that participated in that tour. So that's a fun way to get to taste, and my favorite way to get to really experience and kind of understand what's going on at the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest, which I always still want to call Barbecue Fest, which that's a long-term Olympian thing that we're not allowed to.
I'm used to
and what?
No, I was saying I'm used to calling it that too.
I know, it's a mouthful otherwise. But another cool way that you can kind of sometimes get to, I can't guarantee you'll get to try something on this one. I've had where people have maybe given you a taste of something before, but it's also very informational to understand kind of behind the scenes what these teams go through, is the Cooker Caravan. And this is actually a free tour that is given, and it's about an hour or so long, and they take you to various teams, and they talk about the latest in barbecue techniques and what they do and gear and things like that. So if you love to cook barbecue in your own backyard, or you just are curious about how people are making it, this is kind of a fun, easy thing that you don't necessarily have to plan in advance. I would, if you're thinking of doing it one afternoon and it, if the weather is beautiful and it looks like there are a lot of people in the park, is that you may want to go by the Cooker Caravan tent and go ahead and get yourself your ticket and signed up for the list for one of the tours that you wanted to do. But it's definitely another fun, interactive way to kind of really feel what the festival is, rather than just being a person, a sightseer and such. So moving on to activities, Miss Piggy Idol. Have you ever been to that?
No, I've never been, but it looks like it's quite the performance.
It is quite the performance. That's just a very good way to put that. It's one of my favorite things because it is so funny. I mean, these teams practice, for months getting ready to put on the best show that they can. And it's usually guys dressed up as Miss Piggy. And it's just, I don't know. It is a barrel of laughs and a lot of fun. And it is traditionally on the Thursday night. Again, it'll start sometime around 6:30. And it's just a great way to kind of kick off the festivities of the night, because that's one of the things that happens at this event is when the sun goes down, it becomes a real big party. And but sauce wrestling and Miss Piggy Idol are fun ways to kind of like, okay, here I am, let's kick off this evening and do something crazy and watch this. And it kind of sets the tone. And one of the things that they do is, again, since it is such a party, there is live music every night after starting around 7 o'clock or something like that, 7 or 7:30 on the stage. So you can see, look at the lineup this year. I think Al Capone and the Sugar Hill Gang are on May 18th. Cracker is on May 19th. And Nolan Taylor and Dale Watson will close out the contest on Saturday night, May 20th. So great live music to be had. So another thing that I love to do is one of the awards that's given every year is for the best booth. And so this is a great thing to do, is to walk along and just check out the booths. Because again, these teams go all out about, the event and the festival and the theme and just, and so they're some crazy decorated booths that you'll see as you walk up and down the rows. And so definitely plan time to just kind of sightsee and check out all of the different booths. And this is an award that's given, and I think it's usually presented maybe on Friday night for the Best Booth Award. I'm really sad. One of the ones that always wins every year, Pork Illustrated, is not participating this year. And I'm very, very sad because they have won it several, I don't know if they won it last year, but they won it the year before. I mean, they just won it several years. And so I'm going to have to find some new favorite ones to do. There's somebody that does the Game of Thrones. There's ones that have, I don't know. It's just crazy and fun to go watch and see with the booths. And that's a really good activity to do in the afternoon before the sun goes down and check that out.
And of course, it's back on the river. So the sunset at night, gorgeous.
That's one of my things. That's what I was going to end with. The sunset on the river is definitely, for me, I would go at 4:30, 5 o'clock, get the lay of the lands, kind of walk around, see the booths, and then go see one of these activities that are going on. And then definitely make sure that you position yourself near the river to watch the sunset goes down, because it's so pretty and breathtaking down there. And the last thing I was going to say is Judging Day. A lot of people, for years, I didn't think, I'm not going to go to Judging Day. Why would I go to Judging Day? That's boring. All the parties are on, Thursday and Friday. But consider going on Judging Day if you're into barbecue, because, and if you do that, go in the morning, because that's when, it's very odd, because it's the whole park is this party atmosphere, and it's loud and it's bustling on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday morning, there's a hush all over the park. And that's when everyone gets down to business, because that's when the judging happens for the ribs, the shoulder, and the whole hog, which are the 3 serious categories that get you in running for the grand champion. And everyone gets down to business on those days. And it's interesting to see how serious they are. And then sometimes you can kind of peek and watch, because there is on-site judging for all of those categories. So judges go into the tents and they get the whole presentation, kind of like I was talking about for the Kingsford Tour Champions that you would get, where they get this whole spiel on what makes their product so good and their dish so wonderful and what's special about their pig and how did they cook it. And you can kind of sometimes peek and see, because all the tents are open, and kind of watch what that's going on. And it's just kind of an interesting time to be there if you've never done it. It's not the party time for sure, but it's all about the barbecue on Saturday morning and Saturday early afternoon.
Down to business. Well, Jennifer, you always bring it every single time we chat with you. I appreciate it so much. I'm so glad you got to have some special memories with your daughter traveling abroad, and we'll see you next time, all right?
All right.
Not looking half bad here on this Thursday. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis here on the digital desk with you. And of course, we've got a fairly decent Thursday. There might be a couple of passing showers and rumbles of thunder to contend with, but moving forward, tomorrow could be some late day showers and storms. Don't let that big thunderstorm make you scared. Most of the day will be a mixture of clouds and sunshine, but during the latter portion of the day, we could have to tangle with some showers and storms that could be a little bit more hefty as a frontal boundary moves into the area. The positive thing behind that front, drier air and brighter conditions for the weekend. It's this system coming out of the plain states heading in our direction. Most of the showers and storms that we will see for tomorrow will likely happen during the evening and overnight period. That's when we have our highest potential for a few strong and severe thunderstorms to make their way across the Mid-South. It's not going to be a washout for your day on your Friday, but there could be a few popcorn downpours to develop during the afternoon and evening hours before this main system pushes through here. Morning showers will exit, sunshine to return, drier air filters in the wake of that system. But we got to get through today as well. A couple of showers not out of the realm of possibility here today. Best chances east of the metro Memphis area and south of I-40. About a 20% chance in those locations, 10 to 20% opportunities here in inside the 240 loop. Temperatures will top out in the middle 80s this afternoon. Now, speaking of that potential for rain and storms coming in here for your Friday evening, we could have to tangle with 1 or 2 strong or severe thunderstorms. Wind and hail, the primary issue. Let's go hour by hour now with your future cast. First alert to some isolated showers and rumbles of thunder inside of North Mississippi this afternoon. And I can't rule it out that we could see an isolated downpour even inside of the 240 loop. There's actually a backdoor front that's slipping southward that will help to force the issue during that time frame. That will fade away, and we get started with tomorrow morning with some banks of fog. So that may impact you along your morning travels on your Friday morning, something to be cognizant of, especially heading up I-40 and down I-22 to start off on Friday morning. Sunshine will mix in with clouds. A couple of downpours will redevelop during the afternoon hours of your Friday. Notice not everybody getting wet. Most spots are likely dry with temperatures in the middle 80s. Here comes the better chances for showers and storms. It will happen after sunset as the front moves into the area. And some of these clusters of thunderstorms can feature gusty winds, frequent lightning, maybe some small hail. Can't rule that out completely. Notice the time frame here. Most of this is happening after sunset into the overnight period as the front works its way to the east. We'll have some lingering showers on the front side of your Saturday, but already seeing the drier air moving into northeast Arkansas and heading into Shelby County by the time we head towards your Saturday afternoon. The weekend does end up being pretty nice after a morning shower chance Saturday. We'll go with high temperatures in the upper 70s, about a 30% chance for a shower or storm early in the day. Mixture of sunshine and clouds on your Sunday. Of course, we've got the barbecue fest going on the next couple of days. Most of the rain, though, seems to be after sunset, but there could be a pop-up downpour during the afternoon hours if you're heading down to Tom Lee Park on Friday afternoon. And most of the rain before everything gets going on Saturday, most of the rain is going to be out of here. We'll trend towards sunshine. A cool north wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour with 70s for high temperatures. Speaking of which, 11:30 in the morning, the Showboat's back in town. The weather looking great for that kickoff. 72 degrees at 11:30 by the fourth quarter in the upper 70s. Again, a north breeze coming coming in here around 10 miles per hour. Upon the 7-day forecast, outside of those opportunities for an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm Friday into Saturday, we'll see quieter weather for Sunday and Monday to kick off the new work week. There is going to be a big ridge of high pressure that's going to be nudging its way down into the area by the time we head into mid next week. That may kick off a shower or two on Tuesday and Wednesday. There will also be quite warm temperatures. The temperatures will creep upward into the middle 80s as we approach the Memorial Day weekend. Could be approaching 90. You can find out the details in the 10-day forecast anytime on the free First Alert Weather app or on actionnews5.com.
A Berkeley street vendor selling watermelons out of his truck for 30 years is now fighting to survive a gunshot. Investigators say he was shot in an attempted robbery earlier this week. Stephanie Douglas talked to his family and a friend who was all there when it happened.
You'll notice on the busy corner of Homer and Wayne in Memphis, a familiar face is missing.
We were standing there talking, as we do every morning. He's there selling watermelons.
An honest living 76-year-old John Materna, affectionately known as Red, the Watermelon Man, would set up and sell the fruit every morning for the past 30 years. He would use the extra cash for cruises for himself and his wife of 43 years. But Monday, just after 9:30 a.m., when the silver Infiniti pulled up, that all changed.
The one that got out of the passenger side come up there to me around by the tree, hit my pocket, said up it.
According to Memphis police, 2 armed men, one wearing a green shirt and another wearing dark-colored clothing, shot Materna while trying to rob him and his friend.
And that quick, I heard pow, pow, and Red fell.
Police say Materna did fire a single shot back. Both suspects got back into the car and drove off with nothing in hand. Materna's son told Action News 5 his father sold watermelons for 30 years, but never actually did it for the money.
He loves the people. He says the people around there, they're always watching out for him. He trusts them. They trust him. I mean, it's just one of those things he just loves to do.
For now, Materna is recovering in the intensive care unit at Regional 1 from a gunshot wound to the stomach. His family says this weekend they plan to carry on his passion, selling watermelons at his favorite spot.
We just want to show that we're there for him and want to just be his support.
In Memphis, Stephanie Douglas, Action News 5.
Want to show you this here. David Allen Jackson, this is the man arrested and accused of shooting at a Memphis police officer, was back in court yesterday for a bail review hearing. He's currently facing aggravated assault charges along with aggravated robbery, reckless endangerment, and trying to evade arrest. He was someone that we were talking about earlier this morning or earlier this week. He is accused of shooting at a Memphis police officer here near I-240 in Perkins back on Sunday night, then leading them on a chase that went across state lines into Arkansas. Officers initially looking for him because he was accused of robbing someone just hours before all this happened. He's given a $125,000 bond. A major development is coming to South Haven. City leaders calling it a game changer when it comes to tourism. The city has landed what they call its first ever full-service hotel in DeSoto County. Kelly Cook reports.
The DeSoto County Board of Supervisors approved the design of that new convention center and hotel. The hopes is that big conventions will start choosing to come to South Haven rather than places like Tupelo or Gulf Coast. And that will all add up, hopefully, to an economic boost for nearby businesses. Right next door to the Landers Center is Sidecar Cafe, where the chatter at the bar is the $65 million development moving in next door.
I think it's great for DeSoto County. It is. I think the overflow from Landers Center is really going to pack the house here.
Danny Shell says business here doubles on nights of concerts and can only imagine what business will do when major conventions book the new convention center attached to the soon-to-be Hilton Embassy Suites, a 7-story, 240-room hotel sitting on 6 acres on Pepper Chase and Venture Roads.
I call it Project Sky, and the reason I call that is it's going to change the skyline in South Haven, so I'm extremely excited about it.
Mayor Darren Musselwhite says he's been working on this project since 2017, a soon-to-be cornerstone of the Metropolitan District. It will include a 275,000 square foot expansion of the convention center with a skywalk to the hotel outfitted with a resort-style pool, with a lazy river, a not yet unveiled high-end restaurant, and plenty of meeting space.
When you have conventions that may be going to other locations, now the fact that you can have a hotel where people stay on site, they go to their convention, they maybe go to a concert at the Landers Center that night, eat dinner at the restaurant, and they never get in their car.
And it's believed to be the first in the state. Nowhere else in Mississippi is there a convention center with a hotel attached to it.
County's happening, definitely. It's the largest growing county in Mississippi right now. It's somewhere to be.
But the convention center and hotel plan to be complete by 2025. In South Haven, Kelly Cook, Action News 5.
Physical therapy and invasive foot surgery have long been the standards of care for Achilles tendon ruptures, but now it is a Best Life report in showing a much less invasive procedure that makes repairs to the Achilles tendon right in the doctor's office. Incredible breakthrough here. I want to show you right now.
Barbara Lankes is a triathlete, swimming, biking, and running long distances. But over time, she was plagued with leg and foot injuries.
As you get older, you become less pliable, less flexible. You're more prone to those injuries. I've had this injury to both my Achilles since 2008, since my first marathon. And I had been just kind of suffering through it.
Unable to even climb the stairs, Barbara considered her standard treatment options of physical therapy and invasive surgery.
When the doctor offered me like door number 3, option number 3, I took it.
We performed a percutaneous tenotomy procedure, which is a big mouthful for a small surgery.
Doctors use the small needle under ultrasound to penetrate the scar tissue, blocking the tendon.
The procedure reestablishes that blood flow, and it does mechanically break up the scar tissue to a degree, and that allows the body to take over and heal and remodel the tendon.
There is no general anesthesia, general surgery, or prolonged healing time, and it's performed in the office.
I'm a very prepared person, so I brought my crutches. I thought I wasn't going to be able to weight bear, and I stood up and I could walk.
Tennis elbow, plantar fasciitis, and hamstring injuries can also be repaired with a percutaneous tenotomy procedure, and only takes about 15 to 20 minutes, believe it or not. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5. All right, FedEx pilots voting in support of a strike if it's needed to achieve a new contractual agreement. That's what they say when it comes to making a deal with the Memphis-based shipping giant. The pilots remain under contractual provisions and benefits that were negotiated back in 2015. Negotiations for a new deal began in May of 2021 and entered mediation in October 2022. So the strike would not begin until National Mediation Board decides that mediation efforts would not be productive and either side declines arbitration. So, in a statement, the FedEx said in part, quote, "At this time, we are still in productive negotiations with our pilots under the supervision of a government-appointed mediator and will return to the bargaining table sometime next week." All right, parents will soon be able to put their teenagers in Uber rides. Yeah, the new service will allow kids 13 to 17 to ride alone for the first time. Once their parents or caretakers hail a ride for them, teens will have to give the driver a unique PIN number. Then the app records audio during the ride, and the parents can follow the trip's progress. Parents can also contact the driver or Uber's support team at any time during the ride. Uber says only highly rated and experienced drivers will be allowed to provide rides to those teens.
Somebody to guide you to it.
Hundreds of Mid-South students are getting a glimpse of their future.
Somebody to guide you to it. Glad you're here.
8th graders participated in the junior achievement of Memphis' annual career exploration. Students got a chance to learn about careers directly from more than 50 industry leaders and gain exposure to multiple careers.
We've witnessed witnessed so many incredible moments of children in their exact moment of discovery. A young man was fixated on building light switches, and he's so excited to become an electrician. And then he and I had a long conversation about one day he can open his own company as an electrical company and pass that to his children and his children's children. And that's what we talk about when we mean seeds of hope.
Newest component to this year's career exploration is What's Next. It's an element that shows how students find careers. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves announced a multi-million-dollar investment in workforce training, I should say. The governor visited Northwest Community College in Batesville yesterday, praising the $3.5 million workforce training center. That money will be used to develop programs that focus on training Mississippians for jobs of the future, like robotics, engineering, and industrial maintenance. The programs will train 136 Mississippians each year. One of the biggest names in comedy headed to Memphis for the first time. We chatted exclusively with Chelsea Handler. She's sharing more about her new tour and new jokes since coming here this weekend. Here's Kim Clark.
Hello.
Whether it's hot topics,
I'm reporting live from my safe space. Today's forecast is calling for a heavy chance of snowflakes.
or scenes too hot for TV, Chelsea may be the queen of current commentary, but this tour is about escaping the headlines.
It's not political right now because we have enough divisiveness and it's a nightmare out there. So I really take it as a responsibility to come and let everyone forget about all this madness that we're dealing with for at least a couple of hours.
Friday night, Handler will take the stage at Graceland Live, a stone's throw from the King's Castle. And though promotional assets for her show feature a hand-drawn crown, Handler's humble about her name being listed alongside rock and roll royalty.
Well, I'm the king and the queen, so it's perfect. Except when I'm at Graceland, then I'll defer to Elvis.
The comedian, TV host, podcaster, and best-selling author's new tour has Handler crisscrossing the country with new material to not only make you laugh, but also think.
And enjoy the togetherness and remind people about the joy of being next to a stranger and laughing hysterically next to someone you don't know.
It'll be her first trip to the Bluff City.
The time is now. My people are calling.
And what better time than Memphis in May?
That sounds like the perfect combo platter. Barbecue and then comedy. Who doesn't love that? I'm always a fun guest to have at your barbecue, that's for sure.
No doubt the audience will be in for a wild ride come Friday night at Graceland Live. Kim Clark, Action News 5.
All right, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. We know that temperatures are going to be heating up once again here in Memphis and the Mid-South. Summer, it's just a few weeks away. It starts next month. And, you know, when we're dealing with summer, we like to be outside. We like to do fun activities. Well, here's the thing, though. We're going to be out in the sun, and all that extra time out in the sun, that can lead to some problems like skin cancer, melanoma. So right now, we are joined by Dr. Martin Fleming. He is the Division Chief for Surgical Oncology at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center to talk about the best ways to protect our skin. Dr. Fleming, good morning to you. I appreciate you joining us. How dangerous are the sun's rays?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Well, as you said, we all like to get outside and have fun, and this is the time of year to do it as we gear up our spring and summer. But the sun can cause significant damage to your skin over time. And some of the problems it causes, some minor skin cancers are really more nuisances than life-threatening issues. But others, like melanoma, can truly be life-threatening, and 10 to 12,000 people a year in the United States die of melanoma. So it's not an insignificant problem, and it's something to really be mindful of.
Yeah, I remember talking with a dermatologist a number of years ago and an oncologist, and they told me the exact same thing. People don't realize how deadly melanoma can be. Let's talk a little bit about how skin cancer can affect the body overall.
Sure. The skin is, we say, the largest organ of your body. It really is when you think of the surface area of the total body. And as styles have changed and activities have changed, styles being clothing styles have changed, the skin is more and more exposed to the sun than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And then in this part of the country, in the Mid-South, there's a very large population of historically Scotch-Irish people with very fair complexions that migrated to the United States, immigrated to the United States, and migrated into the Deep South in the 1800s and became farmers. So we have a big population of people with skin that wasn't intended to be exposed to this kind of sun, who are over years getting a cumulative exposure that can cause some significant damage.
I know that there are certain types of skin cancer that are, I guess, more deadlier than others. Can you go through the basic types of skin cancer and who is most at risk?
Sure. Starting with the different types, the most common type of skin cancer that we encounter is basal cell carcinoma. Basal cell carcinoma is very frequent. Every dermatologist in the country takes care of them on a regular basis. They are often in older folks that have had a lot of sun exposure over time, and often on the face and forehead and scalp of people with a lot of sun exposure. They don't spread, with rare exceptions. They're a local nuisance that needs to be dealt with. They are cancers and they need to be removed. And if left untreated, they can become massive in size and a huge problem. But at their initial stages, they're very small and just need to be removed. The next is squamous cell carcinoma. It is also not very aggressive, usually also in a small office procedure, but there's a small, about 10% subset of those that actually can be very aggressive and spread to lymph nodes and cause life-threatening problems. But in general, basal cells and squamous cells are less concerning. Then less common, but much more aggressive, are something called Merkel cell carcinoma, which is very rare, but we see plenty of it because of sun exposure, and then melanoma, which is actually much more frequent than people might realize. Melanoma is, if found very, very early, is very curable, very treatable, and a procedure that's larger than an office procedure usually, but certainly an outpatient surgery that can take care of the situation permanently. If not treated, though, and progressing over time, it can spread rapidly and wildly throughout the body and become a life-threatening problem. So the people most at risk for all these types of skin cancers are the people with the most sun exposure over a long period of time. It's not a sunburn that you got 2 weeks ago or even last summer. It's sun exposure from a very early age. I grew up here in Memphis, and I mean, we didn't even know what sunscreen was when I was a kid. And sunscreen for me was a t-shirt. If you got too much sun, you just put on a t-shirt. But that kind of exposure over time, especially people with fair complexions, classically people with blue eyes or green eyes, red or auburn hair, blonde hair, and more than one significant sunburn as a child. I see patients and they usually can tell me a story of some time when they had a sunburn that was bad enough that they were truly sick. They were in bed with blisters and feeling bad for several days. That type of sunburn is at an early age really sets people up for problems in the future. And so it really becomes a situation where vigilance and surveillance is the way to take care of it. We can't prevent them from happening from something that, sun exposure 30 years ago, but we know that if we find them early and we take care of them, they're definitely curable and treatable.
What about the symptoms? I've always heard that if you have a mole that's kind of growing, to maybe get it checked out by a dermatologist. Give me some ideas, some symptoms for folks.
Yeah. The things we see that melanoma can start from nothing, or it can be a mole or a freckle that starts to change over time. So some guidelines we tell people that are pretty easy to remember, and it's a rubric on purpose. The letter A stands for asymmetry. So if you have something that's not round or oval, but kind of a strange shape, sometimes going out in more than one dimension in a weird way. B is for border irregularity, meaning the edge of the pigmented lesion doesn't stop cleanly. It kind of feathers out and disappears into the normal looking skin. C is for color variation. If you have a lesion that has brown and black and sometimes even blue and red kind of mixed in it, that's a hint that something's going on. And then D is for diameter. And we usually use about a 5 millimeter diameter to start being concerned. 5 millimeters, I tell people, is about the size of a pencil eraser. So if you use that as kind of a size judgment, and then E is the one that's a little more nebulous, but I think it's helpful, is evolution, meaning it's changing over time. So no one thing that I've mentioned is a cause for concern necessarily. A lot of moles and freckles change over time. As children grow up, they sometimes get bigger. As we get older, we get new, pigmented areas and age spots, as we call them, and freckles from the sun. Those are okay. But if you start to see a lesion that's doing those things I described and looks that way, it's certainly important to just get it biopsied or get it removed. That takes 5 minutes in the office, and then the problem is either evaluated so we know what we're dealing with, or gone so you don't have to worry about it anymore. So those A, B, C, D, E, it's a great way to remember.
I got you. Okay, so now let's talk about ways to protect our skin this summer. I guess it starts with sunscreen SPF 30, right?
Well, yes, we can start there. I personally wear SPF 100. I really do. I don't want or need any more sun. And so when I get outside, I put on SPF 100. I actually do some volunteer surgery work in other parts of the world, and I'm sometimes at the equator, and I don't have the skin for equator sun. And so I wear SPF 100, and I come home with virtually no sun exposure at all. So it works. So sunscreen is really important. The other things you can do that are tangible that don't involve sunscreen is just being conscious of the sun. If you're at the beach, don't go out between noon and 3 or 10 and 2, we sometimes say. Use those hottest parts of the days to do something indoors. If you are at the beach, under the umbrella is great. You can still be out there. You can be part of it. There are some clothing, so you even have SPF built into them to protect you from the sun. Hats especially are great. And I tell people get hats with a brim on them. Otherwise, the back of your neck and the top of your ears are still going to get a lot of sun. So those are the kind of things that are just kind of common sense, easy things to do that allow you to be out, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the sunshine, and not put yourself at risk. I'm a big advocate, especially when people have had a melanoma, they feel like they have to live in a cave. And I say, no, you don't. Go do the things you enjoy and live your life, but just be conscious of what the risks are and what sun exposure means, and make those interventions as you can.
We've talked about a lot, Dr. Fleming, with regards to protection, the problems, perhaps some solutions. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go? It's been very interesting and I know helpful to our viewers. Thousands, by the way, join us here on the Digital Desk.
Well, I'm happy to be here and happy to answer questions. And I would just say, if you have a concern, go see somebody. Don't feel like it's too small or too insignificant to have a lesion, a mole, or freckle evaluated. If you see something changing, go see somebody. If you have any concerns, go see your doctor. That's what we're here for. And if it's nothing to worry about, then you can go home, comfortable that you've had it evaluated. Regular surveillance is very important. And if you're somebody that has had a sun exposure, even if you've never had skin cancer, but you know in your life growing up, you had significant sun exposure, I would say, get a good dermatologist and go once a year, just once a year, to let them look you over. If things evolve so that you have a skin cancer problem, then they're going to want to see you more frequently. But just for surveillance with everything being okay, once a year trip is just like a checkup to your regular doctor. And it really is helpful, and because intervention is all about, surveillance and finding things early.
Okay, Dr. Martin Fleming, the surgical oncologist, division chief at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. We really appreciate you. I know you also work at Regional One Health. Thanks very much for taking a few minutes and talking with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Sure, happy to do it. Thank you for having me.
Not looking half bad here on this Thursday. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis here on the digital desk with you. And of course, we've got a fairly decent Thursday. There might be a couple of passing showers and rumbles of thunder to contend with, but moving forward, tomorrow could be some late day showers and storms. Don't let that big thunderstorm make you scared. Most of the day will be a mixture of clouds and sunshine, but during the latter portion of the day, we could have to tangle with some showers and storms that could be a little bit more hefty as a frontal boundary moves into the area. The positive thing behind that front, drier air and brighter conditions for the weekend. It's this system coming out of the Plains states heading in our direction. Most of the showers and storms that we will see for tomorrow will likely happen during the evening and overnight period. That's when we have our highest potential for a few strong and severe thunderstorms to make their way across the Mid-South. It's not going to be a washout for your day on your Friday, but there could be a few popcorn downpours to develop during the afternoon and evening hours before this main system pushes through here. Morning showers will exit, sunshine to return, drier air filters in the wake of that system. But we got to get through today as well. A couple of showers not out of the realm of possibility here today. Best chances east of the metro Memphis area and south of I-40. About a 20% chance in those locations, 10 to 20% opportunities here in the inside the 240 loop. Temperatures will top out in the middle 80s this afternoon. Now, speaking of that potential for rain and storms coming in here for your Friday evening, we could have to tangle with one or two strong or severe thunderstorms. Wind and hail, the primary issue. Let's go hour by hour now with your future cast. First alert to some isolated showers and rumbles of thunder inside of North Mississippi this afternoon. And I can't rule it out that we could see an isolated downpour even inside of the 240 loop. There's actually a backdoor front that's slipping southward that will help to force the issue during that time frame. That will fade away, and we get started with tomorrow morning with some banks of fog. So that may impact you along your morning travels on your Friday morning, something to be cognizant of, especially heading up I-40 and down I-22 to start off on Friday morning. Sunshine will mix in with clouds. A couple of downpours will redevelop during the afternoon hours of your Friday. Notice not everybody getting wet. Most spots are likely dry with temperatures in the middle 80s. Here comes the better chances for showers and storms. It will happen after sunset as the front moves into the area, and some of these clusters of thunderstorms can feature gusty winds, frequent lightning, maybe some small hail. Can't rule that out completely. Notice the time frame here. Most of this is happening after sunset into the overnight period as the front works its way to the east. We'll have some lingering showers on the front side of your Saturday, but already seeing the drier air moving into northeast Arkansas and heading into Shelby County by the time we head towards your Saturday afternoon. The weekend does end up being pretty nice after a morning shower chance Saturday. We'll go with high temperatures in the upper 70s, about a 30% chance for a shower or storm early in the day. Mixture of sunshine and clouds on your Sunday. Of course, we've got the barbecue fest going on the next couple of days. Most of the rain, though, seems to be after sunset, but there could be a pop-up downpour during the afternoon hours if you're heading down to Tom Lee Park on Friday afternoon. And most of the rain before everything gets going on Saturday, most of the rain is going to be out of here. We'll trend towards sunshine. A cool north wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour with 70s for high temperatures. Speaking of which, 11:30 in the morning, the showboat's back in town. The weather looking great for that kickoff. 72 degrees at 11:30 by the fourth quarter in the upper 70s. Again, a north breeze coming in here around 10 miles per hour. Upon the 7-day forecast, outside of those opportunities for an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm Friday into Saturday, we'll see quieter weather for Sunday and Monday to kick off the new work week. There is going to be a big ridge of high pressure that's going to be nudging its way down into the area by the time we head into mid next week. That may kick off a shower or two on Tuesday and Wednesday. There will also be quite warm temperatures. The temperatures will creep upward into the middle 80s as we approach the Memorial Day weekend. Could be approaching 90. You can find out the details in the 10-day forecast anytime on the free First Alert Weather app or on actionnews5.com.
Okay, May is National Trauma Awareness Month, and this year at Regional One Health, the focus is on roadway safety is no accident. That's the theme, roadway safety, no accident. And there are plenty of, I guess you could say, overly enthusiastic drivers on I-240. That is putting it a very nice way. it might be a good time to just kind of remind people about some good safety measures, some friendly reminders about road safety tips and ways you should be driving, dealing with distracted driving, maybe drowsiness driving, speeding, that sort of thing. Because across the country, believe it or not, there is a rise in motor vehicle related injuries and deaths. Let's bring in Josh Dougal. He's with the trauma department there, the Elvis Presley Trauma Center at Regional One Health. He's the program manager. And Josh, good morning to you. I want to start with some of the issues that you see each and every day at Regional One. Tell me about some of those significant injuries that are treated there when it comes to road safety. Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning to you. Thank you for allowing us to talk about the roadway safety is one of the initiatives that we need to be really focusing on. So as you all may know or may not know, Regional One and the Elvis Presley Trauma Center is the only trauma center in 150 miles in every direction. So we truly care for the entire community here when at their most hour of need following a traumatic injury. Car accidents represent about a third of the total number of patients that come through here. So over 2,100 people are treated for car accidents at our trauma center, and most of them are quite severe.
Okay, 21 different, 21 car accidents. Is that in a given month or?
No, 2,100 in a year. So in 2022.
Gotcha.
So yes, over 2,000 patients coming in here.
Wow. That okay. My understanding is that one of the main reasons why there are so many car crashes is that people are distracted inside their car, whether it's the radio or, you know, essentially the computers, the dashboard, or just the phone. I mean, gosh, it drives me nuts when I'm driving at night or early in the morning and the sun isn't out yet, and I see the glow of the phone in people's face while they're driving. How bad is distracted driving from your perspective, Josh?
Yeah, we know that distracted driving absolutely increases the rate of car accidents. As you just said, you know, there is literally a computer that sits inside of your car, and people seem to take precedence over making sure that they're logged in or plugged in or have their playlists up or their music set before they ever even really start paying attention as to where they're driving. And one of the things they're key that they're forgetting is wearing their seatbelt. So taking a look at our information from our trauma center here, about 50% of people that come into our trauma center involved in a car accident aren't wearing their seatbelt. And what that does to you is it doubles the chance of you actually dying from your injuries while you're at our trauma center. And that's not even talking about the people that may pass away at the car wreck scene before they ever even arrive to us. So it's huge to be thinking about reducing the ways that you're being distracted by driving. And then also remember those key fundamentals of just buckling up is so important.
So, I mean, you know, when I'm driving on 240, so after this is done, you know, I'm going to be going on 240 there, and the weaving in and out of some of these cars that are going at a high rate of speed, I mean, what's the best way to just kind of guard against some of these overly enthusiastic drivers, let's just say?
Well, I love the way that you put that. Always trying to put a smile on the driving habits of some of our colleagues out on the road. But I think the most important thing that we can do is to be active drivers and use defensive driving techniques. So again, making sure that you're distracted as little as possible, always trying to do what you can to anticipate what somebody else may be doing in front of you. Remembering back from whenever we all took our driver's test and they talked about appropriate following distances in front of the car that is in front of us, and making sure that you're ready for an evasive maneuver. Again, hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel is always important. Making sure that you're wearing appropriate shoes so that you can control your accelerator and gas pedal and brake pedal are all really great tips.
Okay, fantastic. And when it comes to drowsy driving, because we also see that, and you know, I work a very different schedule. I come in early in the mornings at like 4 o'clock, and then I leave, you know, at about noon time. That kind of schedule, you see all kinds of different people with drowsy driving. How much of an issue is that?
Yeah, it's really hard to actually put a direct number on it, but we do see that our car accidents do seem to peak not only late at night, but early in the morning. We know that the culture of the United States is that for people to work, and to not really take care of themselves and always kind of relying on things to keep themselves awake, such as caffeine or loud music, which again doesn't really pay off whenever we're thinking about driving and making sure that we're actually alert and able to avoid those accidents.
Okay, so anything else? I mean, you've talked about making sure you're buckled in, be defensive when it comes to these overly aggressive drivers, trying to stay alert as much as possible when you're behind the wheel. What else can we say that you haven't touched on, Josh?
Yeah, I would say one of the things that really is key is modeling good behaviors. So as we are all adults in our cars, we're driving around, if anything that we can do to model good behaviors to our younger drivers. So if our kids see us as their parents wearing our seatbelts and staying off of our phone and lessening the chance of having that distraction and also being properly restrained, that'll really pay off to our children who are going to eventually become the drivers. And then they'll be on the road with us, hopefully better prepared than we were as their adults.
Absolutely. Josh, is there any place you would recommend? We have thousands of people that join us here on the Digital Desk each and every day. Any place you'd recommend where people can go online, just kind of check out some of these?
Absolutely, yes. I will send you the link, but the National Highway Traffic Safety Alliance is a fantastic place to look for up-to-date information about what is happening in our state and across the country with rules and regulations regarding car safety. Also, just touch on one more thing. Remember to continue to wear your helmet as your motorcycle riders are out and about, and also keeping an eye out for them as you're changing lanes to make sure that you don't run into them and cause another accident.
Good advice. Josh Dougal, Trauma Program Manager at Elvis Presley Trauma Center at Regional One Health. Josh, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for the tips.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day and wear your seatbelt.
10 minutes before the top of the hour, and we are talking about this deadly plane crash that claimed the life of a former Mississippi state senator this week. Paul Pettit shares what happened, including the plane that took off from Oxford, Mississippi, and then crash landed in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Just a few hundred yards down Ferry Road is where the missing twin-engine Beech King Air E-90 was found on private property in steep and rugged terrain.
The call came out as a plane crash, and we're not going to leave until we're 100% sure that it was not a plane crash or we find the plane.
Search and rescue crews staged at the Oak Grove Cemetery. People in the area reported hearing what sounded like a plane sputtering and then crashing. Some nearby neighbors said they could smell gas. Helicopters searched from the sky for the missing plane. After 3 hours of looking, what was left of it was spotted about 2 miles from where crews were staged.
It holds up to 8 passengers. However, we got confirmation that there's only one soul on board.
The FAA says the plane left Oxford, Mississippi earlier Wednesday. The Washington County Sheriff's Department says the pilot, Johnny Morgan, did not survive the crash. Morgan was a former Mississippi state senator and well-known businessman from Oxford.
Community members talking about ways to improve life in Memphis. They share concerns at a town hall meeting this week featuring members of various organizations and city leaders. The topics were about crime and youth, as well as education and access. The Crime Commission estimates this year around 500 juveniles will be charged with serious violent crimes. And organizers say enough is enough.
We need to create more opportunities that will allow the children that we're serving and the parents that we're serving to interact with the police in a positive light.
Third graders in Mississippi will learn today how they did on this year's reading test. Last year's scores were nearly back to pre-pandemic levels, but Mississippi has been getting noticed for the last several years because of the dramatically improved scores on the national fourth grade reading test. That's because since 2013, the addition of the third grade reading gate, the students have made certain that scores need to advance in the fourth grade. In time frame, the state scores went from 49th in the country to 21st last year.
Over the last few years, we've talked to around 22 other states. And what we've done, I would have to say, differently is we've taken our law and we've created this comprehensive approach to literacy. So we have our training, we have our coaches, with the guiding phrase of prevention and intervention over retention.
The Department of Education has partnered with Mississippi Public Broadcasting to create a new TV series called Reading Buddies to premiere June 1st. The timing is strategic to address some summer learning loss for those young children. Reminder that this year's TCAP scores are in, and on Monday, a number of different school districts all across the state of Tennessee, West Tennessee, and of course, Memphis-Shelby County Schools will send an email or a letter to all third grade parents about their child's results. Those who don't score high enough on the English language arts portions, they could go to summer school or be held back a year. Students can also retake the section May 24th through the 26th. Across the U.S., there could be no more chocolate milk at breakfast and lunch for some students there. USDA finalizing new rules for the next school year that limits flavored milk and added sugars. In Michigan, one school director of food services says it's a tricky topic. He says American consumes too much added sugar and sodium, but the food still needs to be enjoyable.
Frankly, in my view, I know some views from the dairy councils have been too, if it's at least chocolate milk, it's better than no milk at all.
USDA is working to cut added sugars while hoping for a sweeter deal. None of the proposed updates to the school meals are finalized yet. USDA will make a final decision in enough time for the schools to prepare for the next school year. The long-standing mystery surrounding the unidentified body of a female homicide victim discovered in Mississippi back in 1985, rather 89, is finally solved. Rosalind Anderson has more.
It's a really, really sad story, and without this technology, she would have never had her name back.
Her name is Melinda Lou Barnhouse of Maryland, but no one knew the name of the woman found in a rest area until May 10th, 34 years later. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Department never gave up on finding out who she was. With the assistance of state agencies and funding from philanthropist Carla Davis, Othram Laboratories used genealogical data, tracing a family tree to identify Barnhouse.
That's what allowed us to figure out who her family was and then give that investigative lead back to detectives. The detectives reached out to her family and asked if they were missing someone. Once they confirmed that, yes, there was someone missing in the family, further DNA testing confirmed that she was exactly who we thought she was.
Sheriff Steve Rushing says Alfred Case, now 59, was charged with manslaughter in Barnhouse's death and sentenced to 20 years. He was also convicted of a separate aggravated assault and sentenced to 20 years. Case told investigators he met the then 18-year-old in New Orleans. It's never been established how she got to Mississippi. Othram's groundbreaking technology is now getting answers in unsolved cases daily. Rushing says Barnhouse's family is grateful to finally know what happened.
No one wants to find out that their loved one is deceased, or in this case, murdered. But the truth allows people to move to the next chapter in their life rather than get stuck looking for that person that's not out there.
Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. According to some brand new data released by SEMrush, over the last 2 years, there has been a huge surge in Americans wanting to turn their passion projects into paychecks, their side hustles, into full-time money. And the data reveals that since January 2020, a 421% increase in searches for side hustles to make money. Now, we're about to talk to someone about this very issue, about how she turned her side hustle into a full-time job making six figures. Joining me now is Megan Overholt. And Megan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. It's Morgan, by the way, Morgan Overholt.
Morgan, I'm so sorry. I appreciate you joining
us. No problem.
So tell me about your story a little bit, because so many people, as you're right, so many people have decided, hey, what can I do as a side hustle to make full-time income?
Yeah, well, I was actually kind of the lucky one of the lucky ones, to be honest with you. I am no stranger to reinventing myself. Back in 2017, I actually quit my full-time job in the normal corporate world back before it was popular. Essentially rage quit, had all the fun I could stand, got to do something else. But back then, all I really knew to turn to was freelance. And that was a lot better than what I was doing. Do not get me wrong, but the problem is that freelance is still inherently flawed because it still requires that your butt is in that seat every single day and that you're like on the clock and you have deadlines to meet, you've got clients you need to reply to all the time. And it wasn't quite giving me that freedom that I really craved. I had toyed before with the idea of launching something that could produce real live passive income in addition to my freelance before, but I never really took the leap until the pandemic hit. The pandemic, as a lot of y'all know, was inspiring for reinvention. So while I wasn't a stranger to it, I still was very new to the world, had no idea what I was doing, learned from the best, and here we are today. In fact, last year, our second full year in business, we surpassed 6 million page views on thesmokies.com, which is our travel blog website, and we produced over $200,000 worth of revenue. So it's pretty incredible.
That is incredible, and congratulations to you for doing all that. I have to admit, I did those searches too, and I heard that blogging is one of those great opportunities out there for people to get started and really kind of turn it into a money-making career. How did you do it? If you had to look at some of the key factors of turning that blog into a six-figure income, how did you do it?
Well, honestly, again, I'm no stranger to figuring out how to reinvent myself and how to launch a successful company. And one of the key things, and I think this applies to every single industry, anything that you want to do in life really, is that you identify the person who's doing the thing that you really want to do, who's doing it successfully, I should add, and you learn what they're doing. And so what we did is we started joining all of these blogging communities online and really looking at people who were already making six-figure, even seven-figure incomes. And we asked, hey, what are you guys doing? And two words kept coming up for us. It was SEO and SEMrush. And at the time I was familiar with what SEO was. I thought it was just kind of like sprinkling in little keywords on your website and hoping for the best, hoping you'll rank on Google. But SEMrush was kind of the missing component because I found out, news to me, that there are real tools you can use online that actually tell you exactly what people are looking for. It tells you what kinds of questions that people are typing into Google on a daily basis. And so our real key to success was figuring out exactly what those questions were and then answering those questions effectively. And the second that we started doing that, our traffic skyrocketed. It was incredible. I think on like month one, went from having maybe a couple hundred hits to just a few months later, I think June of 2020, that same year, like I said, the pandemic year, I think we're about like 300,000, 400,000 hits. It was crazy. And it kept growing from there. So a pretty big deal. Pay attention to what other people are doing and do that thing.
That does sound amazing, and that's great stuff. When it comes to turning it, when you saw, okay, so you did the SEO, looking for what search items people are looking for. Did you have to write a lot? Because I've always heard that okay, if I'm going to start a blog, I just have to put tons of writing in. I mean, how many hours did you spend in the front end of this project?
Well, here's the really cool thing. So luckily, again, we were some of the lucky ones in the pandemic. We really only had about like a week or two that was kind of slow, which is really when I launched the website in partnership with my sister, Elena, and my husband, James. But after that, our freelance business really picked up and we looked at each other and we're like, hey, look, we got to find time to also work on this website without losing our, at the time, primary income, which was the freelance income. And so we kind of just dedicated one day a week to knocking out as many articles as we possibly could. And we did it that way for an entire year, essentially. Almost an entire year, I didn't have a 2-day weekend. I mean, look, y'all, anything worth having in life is going to take a little bit of hard work. That's what I tell people all day long. Nothing in this life worth having is going to be that easily achievable. So I would say as far as quantifiable hours were concerned, I would say we were each putting in about 8 to 10 hours a week to really get it going. And And now, as it's been growing, we've been able to really integrate it into our normal work weeks. In fact, it's sort of even taken over a lot of the freelance that we were doing before. The script is kind of flipped now. Before we were doing like 25% blogging. Now it's more like 75% blogging and 25% freelance, which is pretty cool. But the great thing about what we've done is that it did exactly what I set out to do, right? Now, when I take a day off, I'm still making money. Now, when I go on a week vacation, I still get notifications every day that I'm making money. So that passive income, or more accurately, perhaps I should refer to it as semi-passive, because it still requires a lot of work to get it up and going. It's not a set it and forget it type thing, but it's still making me money, even if I step away. And that's really the freedom that I've craved from day one, right? That's the ultimate freedom. What more can you possibly ask for?
So you said 8 to 10 hours a week is generally how much you spent on the blog. When did you start seeing significant income jumps? I mean, did it start at, I don't know, 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000, and then just 1 month or two just jumped from there?
Yeah, like I said before, it was really identifying that correct tool to use. Like, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what SEO is. Everybody will love to tell you they can get you on the first page of Google. It's just like some kind of magic thing. I thought I knew what SEO was as a freelance graphic designer because my clients asked for it all the time. I thought it was just sprinkling in keywords, but the key was using those 8 to 10 hours that I was talking about earlier effectively, right? Because at one point when we first launched, we were just kind of taking a guess. Like, I always thought the way that you were supposed to do it, or was the way that you were supposed to do it. But after we really started finding the correct tools, and for us, it was SEMrush, and that's kind of one of the industry leading platforms out there if you guys want to look into it. But one of the things that we did was we actually started doing the research, and that showed us specifically what we should be writing. And that's when we really started to see things kind of skyrocket from there, right? So instead of just using those 8 to 10 hours every week that we had to take guesses at what people may or may not like, what Google may or may not like, we were able to really hone in and make sure that this is what people were looking for, make sure this is what people would like, because it turns out the data was really there all along. So for us, it was learning to use that time efficiently and intelligently and making database decisions versus just what we wanted to write about. And that's really when we started to see the results skyrocket. And I would say within a couple of months of adopting that strategy, that's when we really saw things start to take off.
When you first did the blog, Morgan, was it something where you were getting income one way, and then now are you getting income another way? Give me some detail on how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the other funny thing. When we first launched, we had absolutely no idea how blogs made money. To tell you the truth, probably like most Americans, I thought blogs were something that we had back in the GeoCities days in the 90s or the early 2000s. I had no idea that they were still a thing that was capable of producing income. It was actually my husband, who was one of my partners on the blog, who discovered an ad network called AdThrive and Mediavine, or two different ad networks called AdThrive and Mediavine. It took a few weeks to get accepted into those programs. Today we started out with Mediavine, switched to AdThrive, but there's a variety out there. Those are just two of the top dogs essentially. But once we got there, we were able to really tap into this programmatic ad network, which produced this incredible revenue every single day. So when you go to our website, if you type in thesmokies.com, you're going to see that there's a ton of ads that pop up. And that's kind of what that programmatic ad network is providing us. That's where most of our income has come from. But there's also this wide world of affiliate sales, right? So for instance, we are a travel blog. There's a lot of attractions in the area near the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, like Dollywood and Anakista, and a variety of museums like the Titanic Museum out there that have these programs that you can enter called affiliate programs, where you help them sell a ticket online by like writing a great review about them or saying, hey, look, I highly recommend doing X, Y, and Z in the Smokies. And if people click the link when you suggest to buy a ticket, you get a little tiny kickback. And so we did ads first, we did affiliate marketing second, and going forward, we're actually going to be doubling down on the affiliates. And we hope to release some digital downloads later this year. But there's a variety of different ways that bloggers make money. Those are just kind of a handful of the ones that worked for us very early on. And of course, there's so many more that I feel like we can tap into in the future. So I'm excited to see where this whole thing goes. I think we're just getting started.
That sounds great. I mean, congratulations once again. You're doing such a great job, Morgan. And I think this is helping a lot of people just kind of understand how it works. A couple more questions here. So how much do you make now? If you don't mind me asking, how much does the blog make now on a monthly basis? And then how much did it, initially start? Because you didn't start right away making six figures. It was a gradual increase. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, I remember we made our first $6 within about a month of launching the actual blog site. And we were jumping up and down in the living room like it was the most important $6 we had ever made in our life. A couple months later, the first month, and that was an affiliate sale. A couple months later, the first month after we launched on an ad network, I believe our first month's earnings were something like $400 or $500, if memory serves correctly. Fast forward to today, I believe our largest month to date, and of course it varies as we are a seasonal travel blog. The Smokies are a little bit less trafficked in like January and February. We peak in the summer and into the winter, but our highest month so far has been around $35,000, $36,000 in that month. So yeah, that kind of shows you what's possible. And we suspect we're going to be hitting closer to $50,000, maybe $60,000 by this December. So yeah, like I said, we're just getting started. Wow. To go from zero hits in the first month, essentially, to, I believe in our first full year, we passed almost hit 2 million. And then in our second full year to pass 6 million. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of hoping that we'll start to see that 10 million digit roll in as far as page views are concerned. Hopefully in 2022, we'll see. We'll at least get close.
And it's just focusing on the East Tennessee Smokies area, or are you venturing out from that?
Yes, sir. For the most part, of course, the Smokies, the Smokies and the Blue Ridge Mountains were all kind of intertwined, as you know, in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. So we sort of cover those areas a little bit. Every once in a while, we talk about Tennessee as a state, but our primary market, we've also done a few stories on Memphis, but our primary market is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the surrounding areas, the attractions, etc. That was also a model that we had never really seen anybody else do before. So that was a bit of a gamble, to be perfectly honest with you. We didn't really know that a regional travel blog would work. All you ever hear about are, travel bloggers that go all over the world and explore. But to us, we kind of learned that regional travel was even better, even, I dare say, easier. I don't want to use that word. It's been a lot of hard work, but I dare say easier because we get to target this one area that we know and we love. I grew up in East Tennessee. My husband grew up in East Tennessee. My little sister obviously grew up in East Tennessee. So this is an area that we're intimately familiar with. This is an area that we spent our childhood in. I mean, y'all, if you could have told me when I was like 6 that one day I would make money going to Dollywood, I'd have been like, what? It's like, that's not even my dream, and I've essentially turned that dream into a reality. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool. All right. So are there other blogs that you look at and really kind of like or maybe take some ideas from? I mean, are there other ones that you kind of emulate maybe and kind of say, they really taught me a lot of things?
That's one of the tools I was talking about earlier when I talk about SEO. The tool that I mentioned earlier, SEMrush, will actually show you competitive data. And we certainly integrate that competitive data and fill in gaps that our competitors are not addressing, fill in questions that our competitors are not answering. In fact, our main competitors now are actually some of the city and locally run websites. And I believe it was last month, we even started surpassing some of those city run websites who have entire staffs. I think over 40, 50 people, I believe, for the top website working on those. So to bring in more traffic than even them, it's pretty impressive. But to be honest with you, if I were to give you a second giant piece of advice, which is applicable to both blogging and life, is to worry less about what your competitors are doing and worry more about what they're not doing, right? We never seek to copy anybody. I've never been a copycat of anybody. I want to know what people are, I want to know how they're finding success. I want to know the strategies and the tools that they're using and explore those on my own. But I think it's really important to be the red tree in the forest, you know, to be the standout, to do something unusual. Because if you're just a copycat, all you're going to be is a cheap clone at the end of the day.
Very nice, very nice. There are a lot of people taking notes in this newsroom, just hearing you talk right now. And I'm sure when people watch this on in a taped interview later on our website, they're going to be wanting to share this as well. When someone is looking at starting a blog, I don't know, can you give like maybe the top 3 things that they need to do right off the bat when they want to start and say, I want to do just what Morgan is doing? You know, a lot of people like to say, write what you know. Is that one of those things? Did you always like to travel?
Oh yeah, I've always loved to travel, but to me, it's a little bit, you know, there's 2 different components to it. A lot of people say, follow your passion. And I say, that's great. Follow your passion, but make sure you can make money with that passion, right? We've got a lot of passion. There's several hobbies I have that I'm not very good at, right? I don't think I should probably start a blog on those. There's a lot, I love watching Netflix for a living, you know, there's probably a way to make money doing that, but the thing is that we found a part of our passion. We found one of our passion projects that we knew there was a big audience for. And so that's the piece of advice I would give you there as far as following your passion. Follow your passion and make sure it makes money. As far as the 3 pieces of advice I would give to brand new bloggers would be as follows. Don't get lost in the details. Launch a simple website. It doesn't have to be the prettiest thing you've ever seen. Just make sure it's a simple theme. Make sure it's fast. That's what's more important because people want to make sure it's loading really quickly without any kind of delays. The second thing I would say is, yes, get comfortable with writing and get comfortable using those tools that I talked about, because that was the real difference maker for us. Before, we were just sort of, you know, when we first launched, writing whatever we thought we should write about because we had no data to go on, formatting it however we wanted to format it because we didn't know any better. So research those tools that will really give you those guidelines to show you exactly how to write, will actually give you a score on your writing and predict with almost 90% certainty exactly where you're going to rank on Google, which is pretty awesome. And then 3, make sure you turn that traffic into dollars. That's of course what you got to do at the end of the day. So research those ad networks that I mentioned earlier, research those affiliate programs, can think about what kind of digital downloads that you can sell. Those are 3 of the most popular ways. Courses, if you're doing something more on the business side, those are also very popular right now, online courses. So yeah, those are probably the 3 things that I would recommend. Don't get lost in the details, build a simple website, learn how to write articles that Google will love and that your readers will love, and then figure out how to make the money, honey.
Sorry, Morgan. Listen, I really appreciate everything you've said. It's a great conversation. I found it very interesting. Congratulations on your success. And I really think a lot of your tips have really helped other would-be bloggers out there. So appreciate the conversation very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. I appreciate it.
I want to show you the latest edition of the Memphis Flyer on newsstands right now, and the cover story, it rings true for so many people, especially us that cover Memphis and the Mid-South. What is wrong with the MPD? What is wrong with the Memphis Police Department? And it is a deep dive into this topic, and it goes through several different layers. I want to bring in the author of this article with us on the digital desk, Chris McCoy, joining us now. And Chris, it's been a while. I hope you're doing well. And tell me about the reasons why you did a deep dive on this very issue.
Well, thanks for having me. You can see what I've been doing since I haven't been on the show for a little while. I've been working on this story. And that's one of the things that I love about writing for the Memphis Flyers, that we get a lot of room to write and to research stuff like this. So this really started off as I wanted to follow up on the police reform movement that had been around for a while, but gotten really seriously re-energized since the Tyree Nichols case. So I wanted to follow up on that. and I knew that they had that the movement had managed to pass some ordinances in city council. So I started off talking to several of those and several of those people, and then expanded outward from there. And the lead in my story, which was the most shocking thing that I found out that I didn't know, was about the clearance rate. Now, a clearance rate is the measurement that the FBI uses to evaluate law enforcement, police departments like this. And that is the number of crimes that are reported versus the number of arrests that are made for those crimes. And the national average of that clearance rate for all crimes is around 54%. So 54% nationally of the crimes that get reported are followed up by an arrest. We don't know what happens after the arrest or whatever, but that's the important part for this part. In Memphis, the Memphis Police Department, as of 2021, and these are the numbers from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, their overall clearance rate is 22%. That's less than half the national average. For murder, the clearance rate was 38%. For theft from motor vehicles, the clearance rate was 3%. And for rape, the clearance rate was 17.8%. And that is, of the 332 rapes that were reported to the Memphis Police Department in 2021, 59 of them were solved.
Very
this is not just a meaningless statistic.
Sorry, Chris.
These are not good numbers.
Yeah, no, very disturbing. I mean, I read your article and I was fascinated by the data and the analytics. By the way, I appreciate that, being an analytical guy and looking at the clearance rate. And here's my thing. I can remember, along with you probably, when the first 48 was in Memphis about a decade or so ago, there was a lot of talk about how good our detectives were and how good our police department was in solving crimes, specifically homicides and murders. And I'm trying to figure out what happened in the decade since, because now we went from being way above average to now being, not even half, Chris. That is awful.
Mm-hmm. It's awful. Well, clearance rates have generally been going down nationwide since the late 50s, early 60s. And that they particularly accelerated during the war on drugs era, the downward slope of this, during the war on drugs era, when the emphasis in police training and police work was not going out and solving crimes so much as clearing corners and trying to, rounding up drug dealers and stuff like that. So they were more focused on that and less focused on, doing things like investigation, like we see on TV, right? Like you would see on the first 48. I think one thing that has been very difficult in the last decade, but not just in the last decade, in the last 20, 30 years, is people don't trust the police. The community does not trust the police department as much as it used to. And that's a big thing, because the police can't depend on tips to help solve crime. They can't depend on witnesses showing up if the witnesses don't trust the police. And a big knock on the trust of police, especially in the last year, has been the Tyree Nichols killing. And that's been extremely difficult for everyone. And it's become something of what they call a doom loop, not a virtuous cycle. Where the public trusts the police less, and the police make fewer arrests, and then the public trusts the police less for that. And the attempts to stop crime, to stop this doom loop, have a lot of times have been by sending out cops, teams of cops, to get tough on crime. That's what we saw in the Scorpion unit. For example. Yeah. And DA Steve Mulroy, who's one of the people that I talked to for this, when I asked him, what do you think happened with the Nichols case? He basically said that there was this supposedly elite crime unit, the Scorpion unit, who went out and started doing random traffic stops in order to pad their numbers, to make it look better. And they pulled over the wrong guy, and he was innocent, and things just got way, way out of hand. And as he says, the thing that comes up over and over in these conversations, is culture. That the police in the last few years, I think especially since in the War on Terror era, since 2001 or so, they have come to, a lot of police have come to view the public as the citizens who they're supposed to be protecting, as an enemy force. And they are here to occupy and pacify this community, when really a policeman should think of themselves as a guardian, not a soldier fighting, which is so much of the language that we use right now, but a guardian.
Yeah.
And that change in attitude has really hurt the relationship between the police and the community. So it goes down, it's like I said, it's a doom loop. It's a downward spiral.
Chris McCoy joining us now to talk from
Yeah.
the Memphis Flyer, the cover story here. He wrote, what's wrong with the MPD? We're having this discussion. It is the cover story that you can find on newsstands right now, the Memphis Flyer. You can also go to memphisflyer.com. I thought it was interesting, Chris, you brought up the last three prominent cases that really put a black eye on Memphis city as a whole. And when you talk with people who just love the city and the region as we do, seeing these type of cases just it breaks your heart. Yeah, the Eliza Fletcher case, Ezekiel Kelly, and Tyree Nichols. It really accentuates the negatives when we know that there are so many positives in this city. But what about solutions? How do we get to the solutions aspect? Because that was part of your article as well.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. And a lot of people said the same thing, which is there's not a magic bullet. We need to change the culture of the police department to make them think more like guardians and less like warriors. We need to address poverty in this city, which is, you could have said that sentence anytime in the last 100 years, and it would still be accurate. If people feel like, young people especially, feel like they have hope, feel like they have a future in this community, who can see examples of other people succeeding that don't involve crime or whatever, then they will be less likely to turn to life on the street. The solution is not to flood low-income and black neighborhoods with more police who have the warrior mentality, because we've tried that. We've been trying that, and it hasn't been working. It's not working. I mean, you can just look around and see that it's not working. So a lot of people, and look, these are big problems, okay? These problems are bigger than the Memphis Police Department. They're bigger than Memphis, okay? And several people who I spoke to took pains to say that this, what we're saying here is not every individual Memphis policeman, police person is bad at their job. They're saying that they are not being given the training and they're not being given the opportunity to do the job because of the philosophy behind policing currently. So we've got to rethink the entire situation. And, the police budget is about 38% of the city budget right now. And the people who say we need to spend more, a lot of people will say we need to spend more. We need to hire more police. We're already spending a lot of money on this, and we're not getting our money's worth as it is. So maybe we need to think that first, right? Like I said, these are big, complicated questions, and I feel very privileged that I am able to take the time to do the research and talk to these people about the issue and lay it out for people, especially because we have a mayor's race coming up here. And this is, obviously it's issue number one, I think, for everybody.
Oh, for sure. A1, absolutely. And Chris, if I haven't said it already, I commend you for writing this, taking the time to thoroughly go over piece by piece. It's almost like you peel back the onion layer on layer here. Something that comes up all the time, and I'm sure you talk about it with some folks. I got people coming up to me all the time talking about this issue and solutions and how did we get here. And one of the discussions, a lot of times, it'll center around Willie Harrington's last Memphis police director, Larry Godwin, and I think it was his last year, maybe 10, 12 years ago, where he had under 100 homicides for the calendar year. And when you think about that, compared to what we're dealing with now, where it's around 300 or so a year, and we had under 100 under Larry Godwin's last year as police director, it's astounding. It's like, how do we get back there? Because it wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. And you know what the number one difference between then and now was? Gun laws. There are a lot more guns on the street now because the Tennessee legislature repealed, they said that you don't have to have a permit to carry. So there, arguments that 10 years ago would have ended in a fist fight or some yelling now end in people shooting at each other because everybody has guns. And the huge spike in car break-ins is also related to that because the most of the people who are breaking into these cars, they're looking for guns in the glove compartment, guns that people have left in their car. The current police chief, C.J. Davis, her first day on the job, she got her gun stolen out of her car. Right.
Yep.
So that's a big deal. And then once again, this is the problem that's bigger than Memphis. This is a part of the problem that's been imposed on us by the state. But all of these problems are huge. I noticed that there is a ordinance going in front of the city council to put a permitted to roll back some of those lax gun laws, at least in Memphis, at least in here. And we'll just see how that, and they're going to put that to voters. That's the plan for a referendum. So we'll see if that can change. But the biggest difference in the murder rate, it comes down to there's just more guns out there.
Listen, Chris McCoy, we got to run, but always appreciate the discussion. Thank you so much. And again, you can read it on the pages of the Commercial Appeal. Thanks very much for joining us.
The Memphis Flyer. The Memphis Flyer.
I'm sorry, Memphis Flyer. That's my fault. That is my fault. Yes, the Memphis Flyer. Listen, Chris, thank you so much. Memphis Flyer, memphisflyer.com. Have a good one.
Thank you.
I can't believe I said that, but these things happen. It is live on the digital desk here. I want to go to a story that we were focusing on here. Graduation season tips for graduates. This is from Shelly Malashi. She has more on that.
Graduation season is underway across the country, and young adults are entering the real world amid an uncertain U.S. economic outlook.
For current grads or recent grads, it's really important to make sure that you are not too intimidated by that.
Personal finance expert Julie Alma Taveras says a bit of planning now can help new grads gain control over their finances for life, and has these 5 money tips. Number 1, track expenses for at least 6 months to see your habits before creating a new budget.
It allows you to see, okay, where's my money actually going? So that I can then, after that period, really start to think about how do I want to strategize in terms of how I spend my money.
2, use the 50-20-30 method, where 50% of your paycheck pays for living expenses, 20% goes to your savings, and the last 30% is for things you enjoy. 3, learn to negotiate your salary. Research how much your role pays and advocate for yourself.
That's going to give you a really great start right from the beginning in terms of salary. That is only going to go up from there.
4, get health insurance coverage. Since many young adults are under their parents' policy, Tavera says this is a good time to shop around and get an individual policy that fits your needs and your budget. And finally, create a financial strategy that fits your short-term and long-term goals.
What is it that I want out of life? Do I really want to start saving now so that I could buy a home in the near future? Do I really want to just focus on investing for an early retirement, perhaps?
For Consumer Watch, I'm Shelley Malashi.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest, because it is happening. Today is the first full day. We got it all the way through Saturday, and it's such a fun time to be in Memphis, in downtown Memphis. We caught up with one of the judges, Jim Ellis. He's from Harrisburg, Illinois, as he gets ready for the tough task of judging the world's best barbecue competition.
How long have you been judging?
I've been judging here at the World Champion for 8 years now.
How are you feeling about being here today?
Oh, this is fantastic. Glad to be back on the river.
What are you looking for as a judge?
What I'm looking for is what I call the wow. When I take my first bite, then I judge it almost immediately from going from my lips to the back of my throat. We have to process the whole thing on just almost one bite. Then, if it scores a wow, I kind of put on my scorecard, go back and review that one. So I'm looking for my wow.
Okay. So with so many different kinds of barbecue, how do you even find that wow factor with all these different flavors and such?
Well, we go to school and we judge by the standards. All the pit masters get the same rule, and they have to cook to those standards. So now we kind of look at something that's sweet with on the bite, heat on the end, and that's what we're looking for: tenderness and lots of flavor.
Okay. For folks who have never, tell me what you're looking forward to most this year.
The most is for the fact that as a judge, we only get to judge one of the categories. The baby back ribs, or we were looking at the pulled pork, whole shoulder, or the whole hog. And by doing that, then we actually get to interview each pitmaster on that session. So they have to show us what they're doing from the beginning to the end. So it's almost like, when I go back to this restaurant, you got it. That's what they want to impress us. And basically, you got to learn this. Barbecue is a hand food. Don't ever pick up a tinsel and stab it and try to cut it off. You eat it with your fingers. And so, it's a great atmosphere, a lot of fun, great family, and I just love it.
Okay, let's switch gears from barbecue to rent now, because we've seen how rent prices have just skyrocketed over the last year to 18 months. I mean, if you look at 2020 in the state of Tennessee, it has gone up over 28%, and that is according to Quote Wizard. So what's going to happen from this point moving forward? Are we going to see rate increases, decreases? What's going to happen? Let's bring in Rob Bott. He's with Quote Wizard to talk more about rent prices. Tell us what you're seeing right now, Rob, in terms of Tennessee. We're also in North Mississippi and Eastern Arkansas. Good morning to you.
Well, good morning, and thank you. I think some of the things we're seeing, which will be encouraging for renters, is that we're starting to see prices level off, or at least plateau. Now, we don't know how long this is going to last. But, if you look at rent, the average price of rent in Tennessee, it's up 28% from 2020 numbers, but compared to 2022, it's only up 4%, which is some relief. And the trend is similar. In Arkansas, it's actually up a little higher. Statewide, it's up 10% since 2022. And in Mississippi, it's up 7% since 2022. So, in those two states, you're seeing the cool down hasn't quite happened yet.
That actually is a bit of good news. I mean, if you can call it that, at least it is going up just at a smaller rate. Another key finding I see here in the report is that an average one-bedroom now costs $967 a month. Gosh, that seems awful high. Is it? I mean, compared to the national average?
It's not, compared to the national average, I believe Tennessee's right there, kind of in the middle of the range. What we're seeing is that people who rent are a very vulnerable population, and we have these increases. We can't just say, okay, we're going to raise your rent, so now you need to earn more money. There's no switch you could do for that. So, we're seeing people who are renters feeling extreme financial strains.
What about Memphis? Because I know that, that Nashville sometimes can cloud those numbers in Tennessee. Are you seeing a similar increase or a slower increase when it comes to Memphis and rent?
That's interesting you say that, because since 2020, rents are up 27% in Memphis, which, that's nearly a third higher. But since 2022, they've cooled down. So Memphis has seen the cool down where rents are only up 1% since 2022.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that's a little bit of a story there, that it's essentially just remained flat at this time. So if someone is in the market to rent, do you have any kind of suggestions or tips for them?
I guess the best tips are to look at a few different places. As a renter, your options. Now that the prices of rent are going down, that suggests a little bit of cool down in the market. So, landlords might be more willing to waive or reduce your move-in deposit if they charge one, or you might have more options to kind of shop around a little bit. I think, usually when the rents are going up by a lot, that means there's a lot of demand. And so units may not stay on the market as long, and you kind of have to snatch up whatever's available. But now that the cool down in rents is happening, that suggests that there might be more vacancies, and so it puts a tenant, a customer, in a little stronger position in terms of just being able to ask them for some concessions from your landlord.
Excellent. Anything else before we let you go, Rob, with regards to rent? Almost looking like it's leveling off a little bit.
It's good news for now. I think communities also have, and this is communities nationwide, have this issue where you see these fluctuations in rent, which can create these huge financial strains for families. So communities really need to, look at their housing supply and see what they can do to provide housing opportunities and make sure there are housing opportunities, so that we don't see these huge fluctuations in rent, and so people can kind of stay in their home a little longer and don't get priced out.
Okay, Rob Bott from Quote Wizard, we really appreciate you. Thank you for all that you gave to us with regards to this information, and hopefully we'll see prices continue to either level off and perhaps drop even more. Thanks so very much.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much. It's
exactly.
a pleasure.
We appreciate it. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So now we got some breaking news here I want to share with you. There has been a teen charged with murder after the overdose deaths of those high school students at Fayette Ware High School in Fayette County in Somerville. This is on actionnews5.com. It is on our top story right now. A teen girl charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder after 2 teens died of a suspected overdose. 3 teens, you recall, we've been talking about this for a couple days now, that they were found in the parking lot at school Tuesday afternoon. 2 teens died. Another one went to St. Francis Hospital and has been since released. So the Fayette County Sheriff's Office says a teen has now been charged in this case. The identity of that teen has not been released, but again, this teenage girl is charged. Say again? Okay, this girl has been charged with second-degree murder here. We have our Stephanie Douglas on this story right now. She's going to have the latest information coming up on Action News 5 at midday. There's expected to be a news conference in about an hour, but In about 20 minutes, we have our midday report. We're going to have the latest information then. Right now, want to also get another check of our weather forecast because the sun's out. And it is feeling pretty good outside, approaching 80 degrees. Meteorologist Patrick Ellis has details.
Not looking half bad here on this Thursday. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis here on the digital desk with you. And of course, we've got a fairly decent Thursday. There might be a couple of passing showers and rumbles of thunder to contend with, but moving forward, tomorrow could be some late day showers and storms. Don't let that big thunderstorm make you scared. Most of the day will be a mixture of clouds and sunshine, but during the latter portion of the day, we could have to tangle with some showers and storms that could be a little bit more hefty as a frontal boundary moves into the area. The positive thing behind that front, drier air and brighter conditions for the weekend. It's this system coming out of the plain states heading in our direction. Most of the showers and storms that we will see for tomorrow will likely happen during the evening and overnight period. That's when we have our highest potential for a few strong and severe thunderstorms to make their way across the Mid-South. It's not going to be a washout for your day on your Friday, but there could be a few popcorn downpours to develop during the afternoon and evening hours before this main system pushes through here. Morning showers will exit, sunshine to return, drier air filters in the wake of that system. But we got to get through today as well. A couple of showers not out of the realm of possibility here today. Best chances east of the metro Memphis area and south of I-40. About a 20% chance in those locations, 10 to 20% opportunities here in the inside the 240 loop. Temperatures will top out in the middle 80s this afternoon. Now, speaking of that potential for rain and storms coming in here for your Friday evening, we could have to tangle with one or two strong or severe thunderstorms. Wind and hail, the primary issue. Let's go hour by hour now with your future cast. First alert to some isolated showers and rumbles of thunder inside of North Mississippi this afternoon. And I can't rule it out that we could see an isolated downpour even inside of the 240 loop. There's actually a backdoor front that's slipping southward that will help to force the issue during that time frame. That will fade away, and we get started with tomorrow morning with some banks of fog. So that may impact you along your morning travels on your Friday morning, something to be cognizant of, especially heading up I-40 and down I-22 to start off on Friday morning. Sunshine will mix in with clouds. A couple of downpours will redevelop during the afternoon hours of your Friday. Notice not everybody getting wet. Most spots are likely dry with temperatures in the middle 80s. Here comes the better chances for showers and storms. It will happen after sunset as the front moves into the area, and some of these clusters of thunderstorms can feature gusty winds, frequent lightning, maybe some small hail. Can't rule that out completely. Notice the time frame here. Most of this is happening after sunset into the overnight period as the front works its way to the east. We'll have some lingering showers on the front side of your Saturday, but already seeing the drier air moving into northeast Arkansas and heading into Shelby County by the time we head towards your Saturday afternoon. The weekend does end up being pretty nice after a morning shower chance Saturday. We'll go with high temperatures in the upper 70s, about a 30% chance for a shower or storm early in the day. Mixture of sunshine and clouds on your Sunday. Of course, we've got the barbecue fest going on the next couple of days. Most of the rain, though, seems to be after sunset, but there could be a pop-up downpour during the afternoon hours if you're heading down to Tom Lee Park on Friday afternoon. And most of the rain before everything gets going on Saturday, most of the rain is going to be out of here. We'll trend towards sunshine. A cool north wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour with 70s for high temperatures. Speaking of which, 11:30 in the morning, the showboat's back in town. The weather looking great for that kickoff. 72 degrees at 11:30 by the fourth quarter in the upper 70s. Again, a north breeze coming in here around 10 miles per hour. Upon the 7-day forecast, outside of those opportunities for an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm Friday into Saturday, we'll see quieter weather for Sunday and Monday to kick off the new work week. There is going to be a big ridge of high pressure that's going to be nudging its way down into the area by the time we head into mid next week. That may kick off a shower or two on Tuesday and Wednesday. There will also be quite warm temperatures. The temperatures will creep upward into the middle 80s as we approach the Memorial Day weekend. Could be approaching 90. You can find out the details in the 10-day forecast anytime on the free First Alert Weather app or on actionnews5.com.
Right now, I want to switch gears here because we are talking a lot about the financial markets, financial volatility, especially with inflation at sky-high numbers, the highest still in 40 years. And when it comes to retirement, are you prepared? Do you think you're prepared? Perhaps you don't think you're prepared. Well, Fidelity Investments tried to put out their first ever study, or tried to find out, I should say, when they put out this first ever study on the topic of whether you're prepared for retirement or not. Let's bring in Rita Asaf. She's Vice President of Retirement Products at Fidelity Investments to talk more about this study. Good morning, Rita. Tell us how Fidelity, what the study was and what did it reveal this morning? Thank you.
Morning. Thank you for having me. So Fidelity ran a retirement savings assessment study, and this is a study of all Americans. And it came up with a retirement score. So the retirement score is yellow right now to a score of 78. And what this means is that American savers are now projected to only have 78% of the income needed to cover expenses in retirement. And if you think about this, this is not surprising when you look at the past events from the last couple of years. You had the pandemic, market volatility, and right now just the news with the banking industry. So it's no surprise many people feel uneasy about their financial outlook. But there are two factors that drove the drop. First, people are investing more conservatively. Our study found that 60% of Americans are concerned that investing too aggressively can negatively impact their savings. And second, many people are saving less. Even though Americans have more money saved since 2020, the amount that many are regularly contributing has declined, with the biggest drop coming from millennials.
Okay, so how do we know, Rita, when we have enough money for retirement? I mean, what can we do to kind of, I know nothing's 100% safeguard from various issues, volatility, that sort of thing. How can we do our best to safeguard our retirement nest egg?
Well, you want to have a retirement plan or a goal. And in general, Fidelity has a rule of thumb to help you figure that out. So you want to try and save 10 times your income by age 67. Now, we totally understand this sounds intimidating, but this is why it's important to start early. And how do you get to that 10 times your income? Start by saving 15% of your income each year, which includes your company match if you have access to one. But this may seem like a lot, so just increasing contributions 1% each year to get to that 15% can make a big difference. And here's why we're saying that. Our study found that 50%, this is 50 of Americans, may be unable to afford just basic expenses in retirement, much less their retirement dreams. But it's never too late to start planning. In our experience, those with the retirement plan in place felt the greatest confidence and helped them sleep better at night when there were any sort of surprises that came up. And setting up a plan is much easier than you think. It just means setting up a goal for now for how much you should save regularly and which accounts to put those into.
So, Rita, we have thousands of people who watch us here on the digital desk, and they are people from various generations, millennials, Gen Z, Gen X. So how do you determine, regardless of age, what you need to save for retirement? Is there a breakdown based upon specific generations out there, for example?
Well, I would say overall, there are 3 tips to help you prepare for retirement. Obviously, there will be changes depending on how old you are, but let's just start with, the general guardrails, which is first, save as much as you can. And what we mean for that is that 15% of your income each year. Second, make your money work for you. You want to have the right investment mix of stocks, bonds, and cash based on how far you are from retirement and how comfortable you are with risk. And that investment mix will change as you get older. And lastly, you want to reevaluate your retirement plan. Waiting longer to retire does have its benefits because you can build saving longer and you can actually increase Social Security payments. But we know this isn't easy. So what we found is that some people are actually working part-time or even making money off of hobbies, and that can help them from tapping into their retirement savings earlier. And for those who can't do this, because we understand it's not an option for everyone, it might make more sense to evaluate how much you plan to spend in retirement, where you can make some cuts.
So, Rita, we understand there's, I think Fidelity has a retirement score available. How can we check that? What is the retirement score, first off, and how does that determine where we are in terms of retirement savings?
Sure. So Fidelity has several resources to help you get started, including this Fidelity Retirement Score. And the score is basically a measure of how much you'll be able to, your income will be able to provide for your expenses in retirement. So if you check the score, you can see where you stand and make changes to supercharge your retirement. So to get started, you can go to fidelity.com/score, and there are a number of resources there to help you.
Okay, so again, so many people watching us right now, and many of them might be thinking, okay, we've had a tough few years here. I've had to dip into savings. Where do I begin to really kind of set myself up for retirement? If you were to name like 3 things of where people can begin to really get that retirement score up, let's say, where would you recommend people start?
Look at your contributions. See how much you can actually contribute. And as you get older, you actually have access to contribute more. So those who are 50 or older can take advantage of what we call catch-up contributions, where they can contribute an extra $1,000 each year to an IRA. Second, and this actually helps with your retirement preparedness, that investment mix. You really want to be sure that you have the right investment mix, especially aligned to your time horizon, how far you are from retirement. Those are 2 that will immediately help you with your retirement readiness and are near-term steps that you can take now.
Okay, Rita Asaf, Vice President, Retirement Products at Fidelity Investments. We appreciate the conversation. It's a very important conversation to have, Rita. So thanks for joining us on the Digital Desk. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about our breaking news on the Digital Desk here. A teen has been charged with murder after the overdose deaths of those high school students at Fayette Ware Academy. A teenage girl charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. We have our Action News 5, Stephanie Douglas, going to Somerville right now. She is on the phone with us. And Stephanie, this is fast work by detectives in this case.
Yeah, and it's limited information right now. In the car heading to Somerville right now, it's more, but I would just want to go over the fact that we do know right now that a teenager has been charged with second-degree murder. The Fayette County Sheriff's Office does not reveal the identity of the teenagers, but what we do know is that in less than an hour, a judge to have a hearing with that teenager to find out more details. And also the district will be shortly after holding a press give us more information just about the charges. So like I said, it's very limited information. As of yesterday, I believe that survivor of one of the teenagers was
So, Stephanie, we are losing your signal here, and it was going in and out. But we understand that you're headed to Somerville right now, and some of the area and some of the signal strength there is a little bit spotty. So we'll let you go there. We know that there's a news conference in less than an hour that you're going to be able to go to and really kind of get more of an understanding of how detectives were able to make this arrest. Again, this teenage girl charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. This follows about 48 hours after the deaths that happened at Fayette Ware High School in Fayette County, Somerville. Suspected overdoses there, a 16 and 17-year-old girl. There was they were both found in the parking lot. They died. A 3rd girl was taken to St. Francis Hospital. That girl has been released and is recovering. But again, detectives made an arrest. Teenage girl has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder in this case. We will have the latest information coming up in about 5 minutes on Action News 5's Midday Report. Stay tuned for that. Right now, I want to go to a data breach report. And it's pretty devastating. 2022, it cost companies on average more than $4 million a data breach. There's some new information from a consumer protection organization that shows the root cause of data breaches. Carice Jackson breaks down the recent findings and shows how to protect your information. Take a look.
Almost everyone has been impacted by a data breach. But when a major breach happens and your personal information gets into the hands of a cyber criminal, it can have a lasting impact. That's why James Lee and his team at the Identity Theft Resource Center monitor data breaches across the nation. The ITRC recently released its findings for the first quarter of 2023 and found an estimated 89 million people have had their data compromised so far this year. And while that number dropped slightly from fourth quarter 2022, the ITRC found companies are providing less information about how the breach could have occurred.
What we have seen is companies shift away from providing information about what happened and why because it's not required under their state's law.
A problem, Lee says, because not identifying how a breach happened and taking steps to prevent a similar incident leaves the businesses and its employees vulnerable.
Particularly those who have been the subject of a data breach, and they realize that it could have been prevented if they had had more information about what the steps they needed to take to prevent it. That's especially true among small and mid-sized businesses.
And for everyday people, he says it can be equally as devastating.
They're going to use it to impersonate you. They're going to use it to open up accounts in your name. They're going to use it not to take your existing account, but to go and find new ways of pretending to be you.
The ITRC's report also found that criminals target industries that carry a lot of data, everything from the healthcare sector to financial services and transportation to utilities. So what can business owners and consumers do? Lee says for business owners, recognize you can be a target. So make sure your staff is trained to recognize a phishing attack or when someone is trying to gain unauthorized access into your system. He also says keep track of your software and have protection against malware. And if you have excess data that you're not using anymore, remove it from your systems. As for regular individuals, freeze your credit if you become a victim of a data breach. And also make sure you regularly update passwords on your accounts.
Bad guys want email login and passwords because they know the vast majority of the time people reuse the same password and login on every account. And once that's compromised, they have access to everything you have.
It's why Lee says it's so important to make sure your security is top notch and your software is up to date on everything you use, protecting your data from cyber criminals. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackson.
All right, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have yourself a wonderful Thursday afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine. We got Action News 5 Midday coming up at the top of the hour with the latest from Somerville, Tennessee, with regards to the teenager that's just been charged, a teenage girl charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder related to that suspected overdose that happened earlier this week. And then we'll be back at it again at the Digital Desk bright and early, new time, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.